It's not very often that you get to that team plays for a national championship. Guys here today have some of them have tried that, have had that opportunity 3 times to play for a national championship. Some have played twice. Some was their first opportunity. It obviously might be their last. I think that everyone in this room is going to seize on that opportunity and take advantage of it for the best they can.
It's very, very important to focus on the job at hand. It's very important to communicate when you come off the field. I'll be watching, we'll all be watching, and we're there to help, but you're there to play. You coach, you play, it's your time.
From Sky Dome in Toronto, the Queen's Golden Gaels and the St. Mary's Huskies, a final showdown for the CIAU Football Championship. It's Vanier Cup 92 on TSN. Hi everyone, I'm John Wells. This is the first ever championship meeting for 2 fine schools with great football traditions. Neither has been able to capture the top prize in Canadian university football since the 70s. For the Queen's Golden Gaels, this is the first trip to the Vanier since 1983. They haven't won since 78. While St. Mary's makes its 3rd appearance in 5 years, the Huskies haven't won since 1973. So this afternoon at Sky Dome, 2 great teams try and take the final steps along the road to the Vanier Cup. And in the booth for all the action this afternoon, Gord Miller and Jamie Bone.
All right, thanks very much, John. Good afternoon, everyone. Jamie, this stadium is usually a major factor in this football game, but perhaps this year, for the first time in 4 years, the Sky Dome won't make a big difference.
No, it won't make a big difference because St. Mary's played here before the Vanier Cup in 1990 against the Saskatchewan Huskies. And for Queens, this will be their 3rd appearance in the Dome. They played in the Churchill Bowl a year ago, and they played in the Churchill Bowl last week. So really, for the first time, the Dome is not a factor.
All right, John Wells is at the south end. We're at the west end. Let's check in now on the north end. Sightlines Restaurant, where Leif Pedersen is standing by with Bishop's University coach Ian Breck.
Well, thanks very much, Gord. Oh, yeah, once again, we get the tough job having to stay here at Sightlines all afternoon and be amongst all the fans up here. It's really great. We would like to welcome the head coach of the Bishop's Gators to our broadcast crew this afternoon, head coach Ian Breck. First of all, congratulations from all of us at being chosen CIAU Coach of the Year.
Well, thank you very much, Leif. It's a great honor, and I think it's a great recognition of Bishop's University and the things we've been able to do, and we accept it that way. And yeah, this is fun. I'm looking forward to doing this broadcast with you.
Okay, from time to time throughout the game, Ian and I will be back to you here at Sightlines to offer our perspective on exactly what's occurring on the field. We have all the bases covered for you. Wellesley South, I'm North, and we got the guys in the sidelines. Here's Paul Romanek.
And as you would well know, Leaf, many championships won and lost in the trenches. That is where I'll be all afternoon, along with Rod Smith, who'll be on the other side of the field. We'll get to Rod in a few moments. One of the great things about being down this low, and that always fascinates me, is you look around at the different ways all kinds of guys prepare for games. St. Mary's quarterback David Sykes walking around in the thick of his teammates getting ready for this one. And then I was looking at a guard by the name of Colin O'Donnell walking along, big, huge, solitary figure walking across the field with his head down, just getting things ready within his own head space. It's going to be a lot of fun. Another big part of being down low, the fans. And cue the banner. There will be a lot more here by the time we get this game underway. Let's go to the other side of the field to Rod Smith.
And Paul, speaking of the fans, this could be the one edge that the Queen's Golden Gaels do have over the St. Mary's Huskies, mainly because of geography. With Kingston, where Queens is, just a few hours down the 401 from Toronto, thousands upon thousands have come down here to sit in the east side stands and cheer the Golden Gaels on. Call it the 13th man on the field for Queens. We'll find out in a while whether that's a factor or not, but let's give these fans, they've asked me a chance to do a bit of cheering. Here they go now. Now let's go back to John Wells.
All right, Rod, I do believe we have all the bases covered this afternoon with the TSN commentating team. You know, a week ago at this time, 4 teams were still dreaming of making it to the Sky Dome this afternoon. When the season began, the players on 23 teams had visions of being here. All but 2 teams fell short of their goal this year, but provided some great excitement and emotion along the way. 1992. Live from Skydome in Toronto, the 1992 Vanier Cup, the Golden Gaels against the Huskies of St. Mary's. The offensive numbers are surprisingly close heading into this Cup final. A very slight edge to St. Mary's in points per game. Queens averaged 221 yards a game along the ground, but the Huskies had a better passing number through the air through 10 games. Welcome back. I'm John Wells. Our countdown to Vanier Cup 92 continues. The kickoff now about 38 minutes away. Queens racked up nearly 400 yards and hung on to beat Guelph in the Churchill Bowl last Saturday. St. Mary's relied on two big offensive plays to get past the Calgary Dinosaurs in the Atlantic Bowl in Halifax. Let's take a closer look now at key offensive plays on both teams with Gord and Jamie.
All right, thanks very much, John. Perhaps the key matchup of this football game this afternoon will be the Queens offense against the St. Mary's defense. And the question is, will the Huskies be able to dominate Queens the way their defense has dominated every other opponent they've faced this year?
Well, the St. Mary's defense dominates today. St. Mary's going to win the football game. It's as simple as that. Defense really has been their key all season long. Now, for the Queens Golden Gaels, if they're going to win this football game, they're going to have a big game from their fifth-year quarterback, Tim Pendergast. Pendergast has been an OQIFC All-Star in the past. He's set OQIFC records for touchdown passes. He struggled a little bit this year, but he seems to be getting his game back on track. He is going to have to throw the ball effectively today if they have any hope of winning it. Now, Queens do have a running game. They run the ball 70% of the time, and the guy they like to give the ball to a lot is their tailback, Brad Elberg, out of Tom Collegiate in Regina. Elberg has put up pretty good numbers so far this year, 4 or 5 touchdowns in the playoffs. He's going to be a key player for them if they have any hope of winning this football game today.
It's worth noting, in addition to setting the Ontario-Quebec rushing record, Brad Elberg was also Queens' leading receiver this year. He really is the straw that stirs the drink for the Golden Gaels. Now for St. Mary's, an offense not quite as spectacular as Queens. In fact, an offense not as spectacular as this team's defense, one, though, that relies on the big play.
And, Gord, you know, they really haven't had to be spectacular because of St. Mary's defense. They've been controlling the games for them all season long, and they've just been waiting for them to get on track. Today might be a little bit different because Queens also has a very good defense, maybe the second best in the nation. And David Sykes is the quarterback for St. Mary's out of Queen Elizabeth High School, awarded the Russ Jackson Trophy yesterday. He is going to have, again, like Tim Pendergast, a big game today because they cannot just run the football. When they do go to run the football, people think of Sean Monge. No, I think you're going to see Anthony Oxley carry the ball a lot today. Carried it a lot against Calgary, had that big run of 95 yards a week ago. He might be the guy that could turn this game around offensively for St. Mary's.
All right, these two teams have never met, and the Vanier Cup is a much different situation than a regular season game. These teams don't even have common opponents from the regular season. But over the last 25 years, since this became an open championship, there have been some trends. The winning team has scored an average of 28.2 points, the losing team 13.4. Both those averages are down from the regular season in the CIAU and are substantially lower than you might see in, say, a championship game like the Grey Cup game. The highest score, 52-23. That came in 1988. The lowest score was 10-9 in Alberta victory, ironically enough, over the Queens Golden Gaels. What should we expect today, Jamie? A low-scoring game?
I think you will see a low-scoring game because we have the two best defenses in the country right now. And, you have the two best defense facing up against offenses that are not the best in the nation, usually have low-scoring football games.
All right, we'll keep an eye on things here. Let's go back now to John Wells.
All right, Gordon, coming up a little later, a closer look at the sizable defensive strengths of the Huskies and the Golden Gaels heading into this one this afternoon. The largest crowd in the history of Canadian university football attended the first Vanier Cup here at Skydome in 1989. Saskatchewan met Western in the 25th anniversary game. Mustangs receiver Tyrone Williams stole the show.
Saskatchewan stacks it up in the middle. They've got 7 men there. Gaffney to the air with a man in his face. He looks for Tyrone Williams, and he's got it. Brown simply couldn't get around the 6'5" Williams. 19 yards for the score.
Vanier Cup 92, the first championship meeting for the Queens Golden Gaels and the St. Mary's Huskies. We're live from Skydome on TSN. Looking at the numbers, this game could well be decided by two great defenses. While Queens gave up an average of 2 touchdowns per game through the season, St. Mary's allowed just 9.1 points on average. The Golden Gaels played better against the rush, The Huskies were more stingy against the pass. Welcome back. The countdown to kickoff is now 35 minutes away. Much of the credit for St. Mary's unbeaten season goes to the #1 defense in the nation. In the last 2 weeks, the Huskies have shut down 2 great running backs to make it to the Vanier Cup this afternoon. And while the Queens defense does not rate quite as well, the Golden Gaels nabbed 3 passes last week against Guelph. Leif Pettersson and Ian Breck now with a closer look at both defenses.
You do not get to the national championship without having a great defense, and obviously such is the case with both these teams today. Head coach Ian Breck, you had a close look at the Queens defense a couple of weeks ago when they beat you in the conference final. What are the strengths of the Queens defense?
Well, I really think the way Queens have been playing in the last month, the best thing that they're doing is the play of their defensive backs, their secondary. Their kids are very athletic. They cover very well, lets them do a number of things, lets them play a lot of man coverage, lets their halfbacks get involved in blitzing. And Joel Dagnoni, as a free safety, does a great job. He covers a lot of territory, he sees a lot of things, and he's able to support and get a double cover on anything that's deep. They're playing well.
Coach, I had a great chance to watch St. Mary's down in Halifax defeat Calgary last week, and the thing that impressed me the most of anything is you look at great defenses, pro or college, and they're always strong down the middle, and that certainly is the case with St. Mary's. Alex Iliopoulos, the MVP defensive-wise in the country this year, is the middle linebacker. He is solid. If you get past him, if Brad Helberg is able to get past him this afternoon, he's going to find Trevor Burke, a 4-time All-Canadian middle safety. So the best defenses are always strong in the middle, and that's the case today. Ian and I think defense could play a huge story this afternoon. Let's take a closer look at both defenses.
They send a lot of people to a quick defense. Their secondary is very quick, their linebackers are quick, and they have stand-up ends that come. So I think we want to get in a position where we go a little more north and south than east and west. And I think if we go east and west, it'll play into their hands a little bit more.
We're going to try to do some things where they have to be concerned with our throwing game. I mean, you know, we haven't shown anything much over the last 3 games, and whether we have to show lots on Saturday, that will tell with how well our defense is shutting their offense down.
We have a few blitzes in select situations, depending on, of course, their offensive sets. But last week's game against Guelph, they played in a balanced situation. So we're just going to play straight up to begin the game and blitz selectively.
Takes the man over top of you. He'll follow you instead of following the other guy that's coming behind. And that person takes your position, you take their position, and just for a split second, it takes their mind off the game and what they're doing.
Probably run at the ends, kick out the ends with pulling guards since we're pretty small, especially on my side, and run right up through there. It's difficult to attack the outsides because we're so quick to that side. We give up size for speed. So I have to say they try and beat us up, much like the way Laurier did last year in the Churchill Bowl.
Our speed helps us the most. We have great speed, team speed, and a lot of these running backs don't find enough time to hit the hole, or they don't have enough time to break one open because there's always someone putting them down and hitting them. And I think team speed, our defensive speed, is probably the best thing for us right now.
I think the strength of our linebacking core is our ability to move. I think we're all pretty agile athletes out there, and you know, we can drop off in coverage, and we can. I think we're all pretty quick. I think that's a strength.
What we're doing is we're not being passive. We're not waiting for the guys to touch the ball. Like we're trying to make the plays happen ourselves. This year, we've had almost 20 receptions so far this year. It's like we're just trying to be aggressive and go to the ball. Like when the ball's up, we think that we can come down with it all the time.
We have traditionally been a man-to-man team, and we've been playing a lot of zone lately this year. And I think in the beginning of the year, it took us a while to get it going because we haven't played zone in about 3 years or something. And then now it's all of a sudden starting to come together and starting to gel. And we're just taking our man-to-man skills and applying them to a zone-based defense, and that's helping us out.
They're blessed with some pretty good-looking receivers. They're big and they're tall and they're fast, and we're quick. We're quick and fast in the secondary, but we're short. So, I think that will be a key matchup is how our undersized DBs handle their tall receivers.
Well, coming out of Astoria on defense, we should perhaps have the Minister of Defense with us, but we don't. We have the Minister of Fitness and Amateur Sport, Mr. Pierre Cadieux. Welcome to the game, and I'm just wondering, as Minister of Fitness and Amateur Sport, you must have played sports as a kid. What's your favorite, hockey?
Well, I played a lot of hockey, like I guess every Canadian kid. Unfortunately, didn't have the build to play football, but definitely enjoyed the game.
Yeah, you and me both. What is it that this game symbolizes to you the most in this year of Canada 125?
Well, I think it symbolizes the fact that you have amateur athletes coming from all parts of the country, regardless of culture, language, etc. They come together, get together, and play a game of football in respect of the rules for the greatest entertainment of the fans and also the fulfillment of their own goals. I think that's a good representation about what Canada is all about, and I'm very proud to be part of it.
And you were saying earlier, this is a great portfolio because everywhere you go, people are glad to see you. They're all in agreement.
Well, I think that the noise in the background there and the reaction of the people is an indication of that. You come to major events like these where people are here to compete and to have fun and to show the world and Canada in particular what it's all about. So it's a great portfolio.
I know you've got a front row seat. Enjoy the game.
Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, I'll be sitting with some friends of yours.
Mention my name.
I will. Thank you.
Here's John Wells.
All right, Paul, and we'll continue now with our trip down memory lane. The 26th Vanier Cup was a battle of the Huskies. St. Mary's versus Saskatchewan. 1990 was the final chance for the great St. Mary's quarterback, Chris Flynn, who had a Vanier Cup to his 3 straight Heck Crichton Awards.
Out of the backfield now. Earl keeps only Simchuk in to block. Looks into the end zone. Now he's going to try to run into the end zone. David Earl, touchdown. Everything else. Heck Crichton trophies. The dominant player in the country. But he's 26 seconds away from something. He rolls out. Now he's going to drop the ball. Saskatchewan, if they pick it up, they'll win it. Now they drop the ball. It's still free. Saskatchewan's got it. The Saskatchewan Huskies will win the Vanier Cup.
Welcome back to Vanier Cup 92. On the field, the parade of colors led by the proud alumni of Queen's University. On the Kingston campus, over 13,000 students. Queen's is ranked number 3 among Canada's large universities in the recent Maclean survey. The football team, the Golden Gaels, ranks number 2 in the nation. St. Mary's campus in Halifax has over 5,000 full-time students. Maclean's rankings have St. Mary's at number 6 among small universities in Canada. CIAU football rankings have the St. Mary's Huskies as number 1. Let's join Rod Smith.
Well, John, if you think the Vanier Cup is just for the players, think again, this affects not only the players and the fans, the students, the professors, and the presidents and principals of the universities as well. And joining me now, the president of St. Mary's University, Dr. Ken Osmond. Dr. Osmond, is this always a proud moment to see your team in a national championship?
No, it's going to be a great day, and we're excited to be here, and I think it's going to be a terrific game.
Since the Atlantic Bowl victory by St. Mary's, what's been the reaction like on campus? Has this affected just about the whole school?
Well, I haven't been there all week, but I'm sure it's been very, very animated during the week. People are excited about today, and a lot of people coming up here from the Maritimes.
All right, well, let's bring in, representing Queen's University, the past vice principal of the university and now professor, Dr. Jim Bennett. And Jim, let me ask you this. How much does football mean to the Queen's Golden Gales?
It's a great deal.
Means a great deal. It has for all the time I've been associated with the Queens, which is 38 years. And, of course, it's evident today. Look at what we've got here today in terms of participation. I'll bet you Kingston is a ghost town today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you both. John, back to you.
All right, Rod. Both coaches have been chasing this Vanier Cup dream for more than a few years now. The Huskies' Larry Utek has yet to hold the trophy. Today, he is back for the third time in 5 years. Utek's Huskies lost to Calgary in '88 and Saskatchewan by a whisker just 2 years ago. Doug Hargraves has been on the job at Queens for 17 years now. He won the Vanier in 1978, but missed another chance in 1983. Here now, how both coaches view this afternoon's matchup.
Well, I don't know if I've handled the media blitz really well. What I've tried to do is enjoy it, and that's the message I've been giving to the players, that it's a good opportunity. It's a learning opportunity in terms of handling distraction, and that we should try to enjoy it because you don't get here very often. And it should create a very positive memory for them.
That, as in the past, it's kind of haunted us that we've ranked #1 and then not fulfilled our potential. This year, we've taken that and said to the guys that this #1 ranking means nothing until the end of the year, and after this final football game, that's when #1 will mean something, and we've definitely stressed that.
Well, I think the team's been labeled the Brad Elberg team by the media. We certainly haven't called it the Brad Elberg team. And I think it would be fair to say that Brad has handled that really well with the team, and there has been no focus on Brad Elberg as the team.
It's far easier to coach emotionally. Before, on a technical standpoint, it was great coaching with Chris because Chris made up for your shortcomings in play selection very easily with his talent. Now, you certainly, Bill Robinson has to be a lot more specific in his calling of the plays on offense. But and David Sykes, our quarterback, who does a lot of the calling on the field, has to be accurate as well. But the fact of the matter is, emotionally, it's a far better team to coach because the talent is so spread out amongst the team that we don't have to search for leadership on the field. It's always there. If one guy lets down, another guy will pick up the torch. And both offensively and defensively, that's been the case all year.
It's a disadvantage, I feel, in many ways, because you don't have the same knowledge of the personnel. We can look at the tapes and break down the systems and doing the X and the O'ing, but we really can't evaluate the people. We have no basis of comparison.
I think it'll make for an exciting game. There'll be some mistakes on either side. There'll be some wide open plays on both teams. Sometimes familiarity breeds mediocrity in a lot of ways because they know you as well as you know yourself. So I think we're in for a very exciting game, and the guys are up for playing. Queens has a reputation for being one of the great dynasties of football over the entire history of Canadian college football, and the guys are up for playing.
Well, you've heard from the coaches now, so the stage is almost set. It's up to the players now. The top two teams in the country line up for the 1992 Vanier Cup. St. Mary's Huskies against the Queens Golden Gaels. A year ago here at Skydome, Mount Allison met Laurier. It was a battle of two great running backs that afternoon. Laurier's Andy Cicchini outrushed Mount A's Grant Keeney, and the Golden Hawks won their first ever Vanier Cup.
Cicchini, the deep back, with three in the backfield. Andy Cicchini scores untouched.
Well, it's been a long road for Laurier. 3 times the Vanier Cup they lost, this time they win it.
Wilfrid Laurier's one-year reign as Vanier Cup champions is about to end in 18 minutes. The Queens Golden Gaels and the St. Mary's Huskies are about to meet for the biggest prize in Canadian university football. The Vanier Cup is next on TSN.
College football. It began in 1874 when McGill played at Harvard. For the first 70 years, the biggest prizes were the Grey Cup and the Yates Cup.
Hello, I'm Ted Toogood. I played football for the University of Toronto back in 1945, 6, 7, and 8. In 48, we won the Yates Cup. That was as far as you could go at that time. In later years, I played with Argonauts and we won 2 Grey Cups. But in reflecting back, the most significant one to me was the Yates Cup.
Hello, my name is Alex Ponton. I played for McMaster University Marauders from 1949 to 51. I think McMaster were probably the pioneers in helping the smaller colleges like Bishop's, St. Mary's, Acadia, to getting into play with the big 4 teams, Toronto, Western, McGill, and Queens. Even though I had the opportunity of playing 12 years of professional football, my years at McMaster University, I will never forget.
Hello, my name is Mike Eben. I was a wide receiver for the U of T Blues from 1964 to 1967. And this wonderful trophy here on my left, the Heck Creighton Award, is for the MVP in the whole CIAU, and I was very fortunate to be able to win this in 1967. Prior to that, 2 years earlier, I was also part of the first Vanier Cup intercollegiate team. These are really very big highlights of my university career in football.
Today, 118 years of tradition continues as Queens meets St. Mary's for the Vanier Cup on TSN. From Skydome in Toronto, the 1992 Vanier Cup. The St. Mary's Huskies and the Queens Golden Gaels.
Brought to you by Geo. Get to know Geo at a Chevrolet Geo dealer near you. By London Life. Imagine the power of Freedom 55. And by Pepsi. Gotta have it.
The Atlantic Bowl in Halifax, Calgary versus St. Mary's, and Husky fans were hoping this sign would be true to its word. Second quarter, St. Mary's trailing 7-1, but things changed dramatically when quarterback David Sykes lobs a short screen pass to running back Sean Monge. Monge takes it all the way, 60 yards for the touchdown, and the Huskies are in front, 8-7. Next, the other ace in the Huskies' backfield takes center stage. He's giant running back Anthony Oxley. Oxley rambles 93 yards on this play. He is finally dragged down at the 2. That sets up a 2-yard run by linebacker Brian Johnson. Johnson bursts through and in for the major. 16-7 Huskies. On to the third quarter, where quarterback David Sykes finds Anthony Williams. The refs rule he had possession, and the Huskies win it 23-11 and advance to the Vanier Cup. Doug Hargraves and the Queens Golden Gaels were making their second straight trip to the Churchill Bowl and hoping this year would be different. First quarter star tailback Brad Elberg in from the 9-yard line. His 17th touchdown of the season, and it's Queens leading Guelph 7-0. Second quarter, Queens comes knocking on the door again. Quarterback Tim Pendergast with receiver Ed Kidd, a 34-yard touchdown, 14-1 Queens. With Guelph down 20-2 after 3 quarters, the Griffins finally get one back. Quarterback Wally Gabler Jr. keeps himself. Griffins trailing 20-9. Guelph pulls to within 7 points with another touchdown. But then Queens finally closes the door when cornerback Aaron Campbell picks off Gabler's pass and returns it 66 yards. That seals it for Queens.
The season for Guelph is over, and the Queens Golden Gaels avenge last year's loss in the Churchill Bowl with a 23-16 win. And now we are live inside Skydome, ready for the final showdown for the Vanier Cup between the Queens Golden Gaels and the St. Mary's Huskies. We join Gord Miller and Claude Mayotte for the player introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to meet the two teams in today's 28th Vanier Cup Championship game.
Mesdames, Messieurs, nous vous présentons les deux clubs qui se font face aujourd'hui pour cette 28e présentation de la Coupe Vanier.
Introducing the starting defensive unit for the 1992 Atlantic Bowl champions, the St. Mary's University Huskies.
Voici maintenant l'alignement défensif partant des Huskies de St. Mary's.
At left end, number 66, Tony Bailey.
L'ailier gauche, numéro 66, Tony Bailey.
The left tackle, number 49, Tom Fleet.
Le bloqueur gauche, numéro 32, Tom Fleet.
The right tackle, number 60, Greg Foran.
Le bloqueur droit, numéro 60, Greg Foran.
The right end, number 79, Noah Cantor.
L'ailier droit, numéro 79, Noah Cantor.
Outside linebacker, number 58, Dwayne Brosseau.
Secondeur extérieur, numéro 58, Dwayne Brosseau.
Middle linebacker, number 44, Alex Iliopoulos.
Secondeur intérieur, numéro 44, Alex Iliopoulos.
Outside linebacker, number 65, Brian Johnson.
Secondeur extérieur, numéro 65, Brian Johnson.
Left cornerback, number 27, Brian Walker.
Demi de coin gauche, numéro 27, Brian Walker.
Right cornerback, number 25, David Houston.
Demi de coin droit, numéro 25, David Houston.
Safety, number 21, Andre Williams.
Demi défensif, numéro 21, Andre Williams.
Safety, number 31, Cecil Curry.
Demi défensif, numéro 31, Cecil Curry.
And the rover, number 10, Trevor Burke.
Le maraudeur, le numéro 10, Trevor Burke.
Head coach Larry Utek and the rest of the St. Mary's Huskies.
L'instructeur-chef Larry Utek et les autres joueurs et instructeurs des Huskies de St. Mary's.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing the starting offensive unit for the 1992 Churchill Bowl champions, the Queens Golden Gaels.
Voici maintenant l'alignement offensif partant des Golden Gaels de Queens.
The center, number 50, Tom Black.
Le centre, le numéro 50, Tom Black.
Left guard, number 53, Kevin Parker.
Le garde gauche, numéro 53, Kevin Parker.
Right guard, number 60, Stuart Defoe.
Le garde droit, numéro 60, Stuart Defoe.
Left tackle, number 62, Mark Robinson.
Le bloqueur gauche, numéro 62, Mark Robinson.
Right tackle, number 66, Ken Kirkwood.
Le bloqueur droit, numéro 66, Ken Kirkwood.
The tight end, number 77, Dan McCullough.
L'ailier approché, numéro 77, Dan McCullough.
Slot back, number 20, Ed Kidd.
Demi inséré, numéro 20, Ed Kidd.
Fullback, number 21, Paul Kozan.
Centre arrière, numéro 21, Paul Kozan.
Halfback, number 1, Brad Elber.
Demi, numéro 1, Brad Halbert.
Wide receiver, number 12, Rob Weir.
Flanqueur, numéro 12, Rob Weir.
Wide receiver, number 16, Steve Jovetic.
Flanqueur, numéro 16, Steve Jovetic.
And the quarterback, number 10, Tim Pendergast.
Le quart arrière, le numéro 10, Tim Pendergast.
Head coach Doug Hargraves and the rest of the Queens Golden Gaels.
L'instructeur-chef Doug Hargraves et les autres joueurs et instructeurs des Golden Gaels, le Queens.
Well, there are subtle differences in the rules in CIAU football. For starters, the referee wears a white hat in the university game. Alongside this afternoon, Ken Green, the head of CIAU officials. Now, what are the most notable differences that we'll see in the college game this afternoon?
I think there are three that would pertain particularly to the fan. The first, of course, is the no contact rule, which states if any part of the ball carrier, other than his hands or feet, touches the ground, he's dead automatically, which, of course, is opposite to the pro. Second would deal with pass interference, maximum penalty in amateur ball being 15 yards, whereas it could be point of foul at the pro level. And the third would be blocking. On change of possession plays and kick plays, all blocking is limited to at or above the waist. They would be the three keys as far as the fans are concerned, John.
All right, we'll watch for that this afternoon. Now, St. Mary's has a play in the book loosely called the Fumblerooski. Let's take a look at that and get an interpretation from the head referee, Ken Green. Now this one, basically what the center has to do is get the ball in play, right?
That's true. You'll notice in this case the ball was snapped. I think this was a kick formation. The ball was handed to the blocking back. Play continued with the normal fakes. After the delayed, blocking back took off with the ball. Perfectly legal play.
All right, well, it's rather interesting, and if anything pops up out of the ordinary this afternoon, we'll get an answer from Ken Green. Well, we're closing in on the kickoff to Vanier Cup 1992. Tense times and great emotion on the field at Skydome. And we're ready now for the national anthem.
We now present South Mountain to sing the Canadian national anthem. Their hit singles have achieved top 10 status in the country music field. The group was recently presented with the 1991 Vista Rising Star Award as the most promising new artist in the country music field. Nous invitons maintenant le groupe South Mountain à entonner l'hymne national du Canada. Je vous demanderai bien de vous lever et de vous joindre à eux pour notre hymne national. Please stand and join South Mountain in our national anthem.
Sons come back with glowing hearts.
se joignent à l'arbitre pour le tirage au sort officiel, accompagnés par leur président d'université. Now joining referee Murray Taylor for the official coin toss are the team captains accompanied by their respective university presidents. For St. Mary's, Dr. Kenneth Osman, and for Queen's, Principal David Smith.
That's the way we're going to go? Are we going to go with that, or are we just going to...
Gentlemen, welcome to the Vanier Cup again. Captain Burke, you're going to call the coin. It is ahead. You want to defer?
We would like to kick the ball off.
Queens will kick off. Which end will you take? You'll take that end. Queens will kick off. Good luck, guys. Have a good game.
All right, we'll be back for the kickoff for the Queen's University Golden Gaels as they take on the St. Mary's Huskies in the 1992 Vanier Cup, live from Skydome. Queen's University fans are always seen and heard. They had a great time in Toronto last night at Nathan Phillips Square in an unofficial Vanier Cup warm-up. Pipes and drums on the University Golden Gaels. And their fans will be in attendance in great numbers this afternoon. We are now ready for the official kickoff. Norman Jameson, chairman of Vanier Cup 92, gets a pretty good one away. And it's time now to turn this thing over to the players and to our Vanier Cup commentators, Gord Miller and Jamie Bowen.
Thank you very much, John. A week of festivities and a day of ceremonies have come to a conclusion. It's time now to decide the 1992 Vanier Cup champions. The St. Mary's Huskies won the coin toss, deferred to the second half. Queens then elected to kick off. As a result, St. Mary's offense will go to work first, Jamie.
And Gord, that shows you the kind of confidence that Doug Hargraves has in his defense. They've been overshadowed a little bit this week because everybody's talking about that great St. Mary's defense, but they've had a pretty good season so far as well. And Doug Hargraves feels that he will put his defense to the test right away against quarterback David Sykes.
Queens has not won the Vanier Cup since 1978. St. Mary's since 1973. The two teams have never met before, but when they're done today, there will be a new champion in CIAU football for this season. Jamie Galloway to kick it off. Back deep, Jeremy Stewart and Kent Gallinger. And the 1992 Vanier Cup is underway. Stewart from the 8. Stewart trying to get outside, but Brad Alberg makes the tackle right away. So David Sykes on the offense will go to work.
David Sykes put up some pretty good numbers, 1,756 yards passing, but look at that, 18 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. To mark up a good quarterback, had a great season.
It was a 56-yard kickoff and a return of 12. And right away you saw the impact that Brad Elberg will have on this game as he scooted downfield to make the stop. St. Mary's will scrimmage 1st and 10 from its own 20-yard line. Sean Monge and Anthony Oxley in the backfield. And the give goes to Oxley on first down, but not much there as the Queens defense stands tall and stops Oxley for no gain.
A huge offensive line for St. Mary's. Brad Chalmers, Alex Westwater, Chris Goddard, Colin O'Donnell, and of course Ted McLean at 267 pounds. Running backs, quarterbacks, David Sykes, Sean Monge, Anthony Oxley, David Time, Steve Sardi, Charles Ash, and Anthony Williams.
No gain, 2nd and 10 from the 20. Draw play. Here's Monge with room to run. A first down and plenty more. All the way up to the 36-yard line before Jamie Patterson finally brought him down. But it's a first down for St. Mary's.
They know that Queens has a tendency on defense to come after people. Watch this great block by number 54, Chris Goddard, right there. Boom. It's a nice job by Sean Monge.
A gain of 16 yards, 1st and 10 St. Mary's from the Huskies' 36-yard line. First possession of the football game. You're watching the 1992 Vanier Cup. Here's Monge again, trying to bounce outside and does. Up across the 40 to about the 44. Finally pushed out of bounds by linebacker Mike Boone.
Queens has a great defense. Jamie Lewin, Eric Dell, Pete Gray, and of course Mark Johnson, a linebacker, a right end. Mike Boone, Peter Payne, and Greg Brick are the linebackers. Defensive backs, Chris McCormick, James Patterson, Max Turner, Mark Morrison, and Joel Dagnoni. Dagnoni led the OQIFC with 7 interceptions this season.
And we have an injured football player on the field. It is Scott Gray, defensive tackle for Queens. The gain was 9 by Monge. The ball is spotted at the 45-yard line. And this Queens defensive front has been banged up because last week Matt Zerani was injured when he had his knee taken out in the game against Gaels.
And this is the first game back for Scott Gray. He was a offensive guard, and then they put him at defense. See him just to the right of your screen, getting put over on his back. Now, this is a position that Scott Gray has not played. He is an offensive lineman, has been injured, had a leg problem. First game back, and they put him in a defensive tackle. A little bit of unfamiliar territory for him.
On 2nd and 1, Sykes goes straight ahead and has the first down. Not a rushing quarterback, David Sykes. Ran the ball only 16 times this year for a total of 17 yards and did not rush for a touchdown.
And you contrast that with the quarterback they used to have at St. Mary's, Chris Flynn. Quite a difference.
Here are the referees for today's game. Murray Taylor, the man in the white hat, heads things up. They've got the job of watching the lines and the fouls today. It is a first down from the 48-yard line. Sykes to throw for the first time, complete to Steve Sardi at midfield, and Sardi is close to another first down. Brought down by Chris McCormick inside Queens territory at the 51.
And you know, Gord, this might be a matchup that we should look at all day. You take a look at the St. Mary's receivers. They're really tall. Steve Sardi, 6'4", against Chris McCormick, only 5 feet 10 inches tall.
The gain was 10 yards. It's another St. Mary's first down, and the Huskies have moved the ball crisply here. 1st and 10. They mark it at the 52 of Queens. Here's Monge trying the near side. Not much there. The ball comes loose. Still bouncing around, and Sardi has it. Steve Sardi falls on the football for St. Mary's. And they'll mark it at the Queens 46-yard line. The gain was 6.
They run the pitch to the right. Now the ball pops loose. He's carrying in the right hand, Sean Monge. But actually right there, Chris McCormick looks like he was interfered getting the ball by Steve Sardi, but the official right there did not call it. And of course, St. Mary's recovered the football.
Gain of 6, 2nd and 4 from the Queens 46-yard line. Sykes may be changing the play at the line. They go to Monge again. Trying to cut off tackle, but nothing doing. Brought down on the play by Scott Zulich, who moved in to take Scott Gray's place. And that'll bring up a 3rd and 2 situation for St. Mary's. Mark Johnson, the outstanding defensive end, also made the stop. And Danis again comes in to punt for St. Mary's, a man who missed a couple of games with injuries this season. He began the season as both the punter and the place kicker, now splits the duties with Mark Dallariva. Steve Jovedich and Mark Morrison are back deep to receive on 3rd and 2. Low end over end punt. This is Morrison backed up at the 6. And brought down after a run of about 10. It'll be 1st and 10 Queens from the 16-yard line after a 38-yard punt by Sagan, a 6-yard return.
And Gord, St. Mary's would have to feel very good right now offensively. They managed to move the ball against Queens' defense. It's Tim Pendergast comes out on the field, the Queens quarterback. 5 TDs, 11 interceptions. He would have liked to have had that reversed in the season. But nevertheless, this is a running football team. They will run the ball 70% of the time. So look for St. Mary's to try and take Brad Elberg out of the game almost immediately.
1st and 10 from the 15-yard line. Elberg bounces off tackle and fights his way across the 20 to about the 21-yard line.
The offensive line for Queens, Mark Robinson, Kevin Parker, Tom Black, Stuart Defoe, and Ken Kirkwood. Pretty big group as well. Quarterback Tim Pendergast, Paul Kozan, and Brad Elberg, the 2 backs out of Regina, Saskatchewan. The receivers Dan McCullough, Rob Weir, Steve Jovetic, and the best receiver on this football team, Ed Kidd.
Gain was 6 by Elberg, make it 2nd and 4. Pendergast looking deep for Kidd, and it is almost intercepted as jumping in to make the play was Brian Walker. And Walker very nearly had the interception.
But Pendergast is back. He's got Jovetic on the out, and he's got Ed Kidd going into the seam. And what happens is that Brian Walker is just looking at Tim Pendergast's eyes. Pendergast got to hang on to the man outside and then throw that ball in there, and he's got to drill it. He can't float it in there like that. Brian Walker, the corner, comes off of Jovetic and slips inside and almost makes the interception.
And we'll get our first look today at Jamie Galloway in punt formation, a 34.1-yard average this year. High wobbly punt. This is Kent Gallinger from the midfield stripe. Gallinger moves upfield. A flag is down. He is brought down at the 45-yard line. A 34-yard punt, a return of 10. But St. Mary's should have good field position when we return to the 1992 Vanier Cup. No score in the first quarter of the 1992 Vanier Cup. Let's go down to Rod Smith, who has a prominent Queens alumnus with him.
Very prominent, Gord. Certainly one of the more prominent members in recent history. Jock Climby, now a receiver with the Ottawa Rough Riders, but of course became famous as a member of the Queens Golden Gaels. This is one step you weren't able to take, were you, as a member of the Gaels?
No, we got to the game just before this one in '89, and I've told several people in the last few days I would have given up a year of pro to have gotten to the Vanier Cup.
Well, speaking of pro, you're not in it anymore. I guess you thought you'd rather be in Winnipeg, but this must be the next best thing.
Yeah, this is the next best thing. This is really exciting to be here and watch these boys play in the Vanier Cup. And I'm, really excited for them, but did a little disappointing last week in Hamilton.
Thanks a lot, Jock.
All right.
Gord?
Thanks very much, Rod. The penalty was against St. Mary's on the return. Nonetheless, still good field position for the Huskies to begin their second possession of the football game. 1st and 10 from their own 47-yard line. And they ran the ball effectively the first time they had the ball. Sykes up to throw. Complete to Sardi. Not much there as he is wrapped up immediately. An outstanding defensive play made by Mark Morrison.
Mark Morrison playing in his inside safety position, working his way out to the sideline. You saw David Sykes, he just kind of hesitated a little bit before he threw the ball because he was concerned with Morrison. Morrison, one of the many players on this Queens team from out of the province of Ontario. He hails from Okotoks, Alberta, and in his first year of law school.
Gain was 1. It is 2nd and 9. Sykes again quickly out to the flat, incomplete, looking for Anthony Williams, and the timing was very much off on that play, James.
Well, that's a sight read. When David Sykes comes out, he has Anthony Williams is going into the flat, and if he doesn't get eye contact with the quarterback immediately at the bottom of your screen, he's going to try to turn it up the field. But it didn't look like Anthony Williams really kind of hung on with his quarterback for any length of time, so you get an incomplete pass.
And Danis again is into punt once again. Queens should get better field position after its first possession. Lasted just a couple of plays. High spiraling punt by Sagan. Drives Steve Jovetic all the way back to the 20. He dropped the ball. He dropped the football, and I think Joel Dagnone jumped back to pounce on the loose ball for Queen. It was Joel Dagnone, and what a giant sigh of relief comes from the Queen sidelines.
And you take a look at Jovetic here. He's trying to catch it over his shoulder. You can't field a punt that way. You've got to make sure that your body is between the goal line and the ball, and you approach it coming towards the ball, not going away from it. He had time to get underneath that.
Let's go to Paul Romanek.
I want to talk about intensity down here. Unbelievable, but there are all kinds of little groups being intense. Defensive line coach Neville Connolly took everybody back behind the bench in the defense and talked to them beforehand just to psych everybody up, pointing out a few last-minute things. They've looked pretty good so far.
And they look pretty good there. Brad Elberg is dragged down right away as in to make the stop. Alex Iliopoulos and Brian Johnson.
Again, Queens are running this search and engage, and they're just trying to let Elberg find the seam right here. But you can see the kind of surge that the defensive line has from St. Mary's getting across the ball. They actually try to cross the guard and tackle. Defoe crossed with Kirkwood. There's not much of a seam, and a good job there by Brian Johnson, number 65.
Gain of 1 at 2nd and 9. Pendergast has time, looking deep over the middle for Dan McCullough, but the pass is just out of his reach. There's a flag down in the Queens backfield, and this may be against St. Mary's for knocking down Tim Pendergast after he had thrown the ball. The call goes against Greg Ferrad, and that's Queens' first down of the game.
Once a quarterback releases the ball and it's on its way, you can see Ferrand comes in a little bit late.
Well, that was close. But the result is a first down for Queens at the Golden Gale 31-yard line. Pendergast alone back now as he looks over the middle of Jovetic, and Steve Jovetic makes the catch, fights his way to midfield. And the tackle is made by Andre Williams. But not before Jovetic has the first down after a gain of 22.
This is a nice read by Tim Pendergast. Jovetic goes down and curls inside, and Cecil Curry, the defensive back, works out into the flat, and then he just gets right in the hole there. You see Alex Iliopoulos from his linebacking position trying to get back there, but not in time.
Aside from Elberg out of the backfield, Jovetic was the leading receiver for this team at the wideout position. Here is Elberg now. Not much there as he fights his way across midfield for a couple.
Well, you know, we talked about St. Mary's defense coming into this game. What they're going to try to do is what they did last week against the University of Calgary. Try and take the big back out of the football game, and today that would be Brad Elberg. They did it a week ago against Craig Kittleson and force Tim Pendergast to try and win this football game. Good defensive line, not overly big, but very, very fast. You have Tony Bailey, Greg Ferrand, Tom Fleet, Noah Cantor, Brasso, Iliopoulos, and Johnson. They are three of maybe the best linebackers in the country. And the defensive backfield, of course. Walker, Williams, Burke, Curry, and Houston.
On 2nd and 8, Pendergast rolls out. Motions deep, and the pass is at the feet of the intended receiver. He was looking over there to Steve Jovetic. Well, we expected a defensive battle, and that's what we've had so far, Jamie. And receiving some attention on the Queens bench is Jeff Yock, defensive back, who comes in the nickel situation. And he may not be coming in now as he's got that knee taped up. And Jamie Galloway is once again back to bunt. And with the defenses playing the way they are today, he might be a very busy man this afternoon. Galloway with a low driving bunt. Taken by Kent Gallinger, who fights his way outside, turns it back in, and got tripped up at the 23. And that's where St. Mary's will start. Still no score in the first quarter of the 1992 Vanier Cup Championship.
Welcome back to Sightlines in the Vanier Cup. Luke Pedersen along with head coach Ian Breck. What do you think about Larry Utek's decision to defer the coin toss choice to the second half?
Well, I think it's a good one. I think you get the first half out of the way, and then if you need the football in the second half, you have that option. If you want to get your defense back out there quickly, then you can kick off and really set a positive tone with good aggressive play. I think the first quarter basically is spent trying to get used to the facility. I think St. Mary's did a great job in putting their backs to the Jumbotron so their kids don't have to spend that first quarter looking at themselves on television. They'll settle down, they'll relax, and then they'll be ready to deal with it in the second quarter.
All right, Coach. Gord, back to you. Thanks very much, Leaf. The Sky Dome factor is an important one, and I think the point was well made by Ian Breck. If you have a great defense, you want them to start the game, and so far St. Mary's defense has been outstanding. 1st and 10 for the Huskies. The ball at their own 23-yard line. 6:04 to play here in the first quarter. Here's Anthony Oxley, and not much doing there as he's brought down by linebacker Mike Boone. Peter Payne also in to make the stop. It was a gain of 4 by Oxley, who had that 95-yard run last week against the Calgary Dinosaurs early on in the first quarter.
3rd year out of Victoria Park Secondary School in Toronto. Anthony Oxley, who hasn't really been the big ball carrier this year, only had 228 yards rushing. It was mostly Sean Monge. But last week he got a lot of work against the Calgary Dinosaurs.
They mark it as a gain of 5, make it 2nd and 5. And Sykes to the flat. Anthony Williams makes the catch, but doesn't get much, as in to make the stop, Max Turner. And Williams was well short of the first down.
Well, that's what they tried a little bit earlier with Williams, and this time he decided to hang on with his quarterback, David Sykes, in that sight read. But Queens are a zone defense right now. Max Turner has the short zone in the flat, so he's playing from his inside halfback position. He's expanding out there, running right there, so when the ball is complete, Max Turner's right there to make the tackle and force a punting situation.
And Dana Sagan is on to punt. It'll be the 5th punt of the football game. And we've still got 5:17 to play in the first quarter.
This is a different formation than St. Mary's have normally been lining up. They've been keeping 2 up-backs close to the line of scrimmage. And St. Mary's do run gadgets off of their punt team, but not right now.
Deep spiraling kick. Jovic from the 47. Had a seam up front, but he got whacked. Jovic was drilled after a turn of 8 yards, and the hit was made by Paul Hewitt. Let's go down to Rod Smith.
Well, Gord, we know that the Queens offense is going to have to succeed in the air, I would think, to win this ball game because St. Mary's is so tough against the run. Just spoke to quarterback Tim Pendergast, who said very, very tough against the run, and the reason why they are so quick, he says they're daring us to pass.
Paul Hewitt, a backup linebacker, played for the Hamilton Hurricanes. Boy, does he ever deliver a blow to Steve Jovic.
And back to the live action, Brad Elberg, and he meets up with Alex Iliopoulos, who makes the stop after a gain of 4. Talked to Bob Howes, the offensive coordinator for Queens, before this game, and he expected that his team would be a little less conservative than it has been in recent weeks, simply because St. Mary's defense is so good against the run. He says, we're going to have to try to show them that we can throw against them.
But these are the kind of situations they have to stay out of, 2nd down and long.
2nd and 6 from the St. Mary's 51-yard line. They give it back inside to Elberg, and Elberg will be close to the first down as they spotted at the 45. He needed to get to about the 44 for the first down. It's a gain of 6.
Well, normally Queens will run the inside trap with the guard, but this time they run it with Ken Kirk with the tackle. Number 66 pulling, and then they hand the ball back deep to Elberg in the backfield. It looks like he's going to be just a bit short, and Queens are going for it.
He is about a half a yard short. He'll need to get fully across the 45-yard line to get the first down, whoever it is. Pendergast straight ahead, and he has the first down with ease. And so the best ball movement we've seen so far by Queens gives the Golden Gaels a first down at about the St. Mary's 43.
And we just saw Doug Hargraves. I think what he has to be thinking right now, one more first down, or he can get himself into field goal position. You can see Tim Pendergast sliding off to his right to get the necessary yardage for the first down. We talked about Jamie Galloway, the field goal kicker here, 8 of 10 in the regular season, as long as 47 yards, so you're getting close into his range.
1st and 10 from the 43-yard line. Pendergast over the middle looking for McCullough. Oh, and just out of his reach once again. That's the 2nd time they've looked for McCullough. And both times the pass has just been beyond his fingertips.
And you know, Queens had to be happy with this. To one extent, they're seeing that Dan McCullough can get behind Trevor Burke. You see Trevor Burke, whenever he's got his back to the quarterback, you know that he's getting beat. And they're just trying to run McCullough straight down that seam.
Jamie, I'm intrigued that they're using the vertical passing game, whereas from St. Mary's, we're seeing them try to spread them out with the horizontal game.
Yeah, two different philosophies. St. Mary's like to throw those short passes.
Pendergast now lofts one up, and he's got a man open. Rob Weir, who makes the catch, and he's marked out the 15-yard line. Rob Weir all to himself. David Houston finally came over on the coverage, but Weir had that sideline all to himself.
You know, Rob Weir is one of those players that came to Queens as a quarterback, as did Ed Kidd, and they stick him out playing a wide receiver spot. And Tim Pendergast throws up the quick fade outside, and he catches David Houston inside. You see how far away Houston is? That's a blown coverage. There's no way that Houston should be inside that far.
It results in a 28-yard gain for Queens on a first down at the St. Mary's 15-yard line. 2:40 to play in the first quarter. Elberg on first down, forced outside, gets by Burke, cuts it back in and gets down to about the 10. And Brad Elberg gets 5 yards when there didn't appear to be anything there.
And you know what they're trying to run here, Gordon? They're just trying to cross the guard and tackle between Defoe and Kirkwood and let Elberg read it. He doesn't like what he sees, so he decides to bounce it outside, and now it's a foot race. Think about the guard and tackle. Now he sees it's not there, and now he gets it outside. Now Trevor Burke is pretty good in the 40. They say he runs a 4.6. Elberg wins the battle and then cuts it back inside, but Brian Johnson manages to trip him up.
Gain was 5, 2nd and 5 from the 10-yard line. 1:54 to play in the first quarter. They give it inside to Paul Kozan, who bounces down inside the 5 and should have another Queens first down. First carry of the game for the fullback.
And I'll tell you, that's a nice trap that Queens are starting to run inside there, the inside trap. Give it off to Kozan. Take a look at the left guard pull, number 53, Kevin Parker, makes the block right there to squeeze him through.
The gain was 6. It is a first down. 8th play of the drive. First and goal from the 4. Elberg. Not much there. Jumping up into the play, Cecil Curry and Alex Iliopoulos. Gain of maybe 1.
Alex Iliopoulos, the best defensive player in the nation. Looking over to the sidelines, trying to get the signals. Says he has a lot of friends and family that are here at today's game. Of course, just down the road at Mississauga, went to Lorne Park Secondary School.
Gain of 1. 2nd and goal from just outside the 3. Elberg tripped up once again. And once again, he stopped short of the goal line. Brian Johnson got in there, as did Tom Fleet. And now it will be 3rd and goal from the 1.
It's a good job by St. Mary's. Notice how they strip the block to get real low, and then they strip it, and then they wait for the linebackers to come over and make the tackle. Brad Elberg, look at that, look at determination. Hits, and now he tries to spin. But you can see Greg Ferran right there, the defensive tackle, stop his progress.
And there is an injured player, or is there? We have a timeout, apparently, called by Queens as Pendergast goes to the sidelines to talk to Doug Hargraves in his 17th season as the head coach at Queens University, one of the best records in all of the CIAU, one Vanier Cup win to his credit.
You want to go to power? Yeah, let's go power again. Right. Wide side or short side? Short side.
Okay, now he's talking about running power here to the short side. They're going to try and block everybody in, lead with the fullback, and kick out usually the first man on or outside of the tight end or slot back. In this case, it will either be Dan McCullough or Ed Kidd. And then they'll try and lead with Brad Elberg. Will try and slip inside.
This possession by Queens has chewed up 4:02 on the clock.
So they should be running this ball to the right. And they're going to try to block, I believe, Dwayne Brasseau.
53 seconds to play in the first quarter. This is the 10th play of the drive. 3rd and goal from the 1.
Dan Wright is in the football game at tight end. They're going to run it to the right side.
Elberg fighting, touchdown! Elberg scores for Queens. It was close, but the Gaels have the score. Brad Elberg with the 1-yard run, and Queens hits the board first.
Well, I thought they're going to be running to the right, but I guess they decided to go wide side. You can see good block by Dan McCullough. Paul Kozan tries to kick out, but then Elberg sees the hole and he cuts it back inside. All the ball has to do is cross the plane of the goal line, and the official standing right there to your right. Iliopoulos at linebacker tries to get inside. It's a pretty good struggle right there, I tell you. Alex Iliopoulos, bench press is close to 350 pounds. Brad Elberg over 400.
Look at that young man. A football player, no matter how you look at it. Galloway with the convert. It is good. It is a 7-0 Queens lead. It's been this man against Alex Iliopoulos. And so far, Brad Elberg and his Queens Golden Gaels are ahead. Queens lead 7-0.
So Queens Golden Gaels strike first here in the 1992 Vanier Cup, and I'm going to show you power against power. It's Brad Elberg against the middle linebacker, Alex Iliopoulos. Here's Iliopoulos, number 44. It's going to be a lead up in the middle. Now watch this. You can't block everybody. Iliopoulos is going to fill the hole right here, and Elberg has to use his power, let it run, to just run over him and get into the end zone. There's Iliopoulos. Boom! He makes the hit, but Elberg at 200 pounds has enough leg drive to get it into the end zone. Third down gamble. That's a huge play early in the game.
You're right, Leaf. And in fact, Elberg and Iliopoulos had words after the touchdown, and that could be one of the great ongoing battles we will see today. And Elberg goes right back to work on kickoff coverage. In fact, he made the tackle on the opening kickoff of this football game, so he really does do it all for Queens. Jamie Galloway to kick it off. Jeremy Stewart and Kent Gallagher are back deep. Angling it towards the sidelines. This is Jeremy Stewart from the 16-yard line. And Stewart picks his way up to the 31. Let's go down to Rod Smith.
All right, Gordon, with me now, the quarterback for the Queens Golden Gaels, Tim Pendergast. Tim, you told me earlier they're daring us to pass. That one long completion down there, how important was that to opening up the ground game?
Oh, big. I mean, they got to play off a little bit now. We almost hurt Burke twice over the middle. He's got to play a little looser now, too. Hopefully that'll help our ground game a bit.
Big confidence booster?
Yeah, it would have been nice if we could have completed those two over the middle, but, I mean, hey, we got 7 points. Let's keep going.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Gordon?
And here's what we were talking about earlier. Elberg and Iliopoulos, and they exchange greetings on the turf here at Skydo.
Yeah, I don't think he's trying to kiss him.
And this kickoff will be performed over again, and here to tell us why is Murray Taylor. It was offside against Queens, so they'll do it again from the 40-yard line this time. St. Mary's is a team that depends on the big play, and we have yet to see the Huskies record it. In fact, they're the ones who have been very methodical on offense.
Brad Elberg said before the game, he said, when we come out here against the St. Mary's defense, we have to hit them hard, we have to hit them a lot, and we have to hit them often.
A low driving kickoff. This is Stewart from the 18. Jeremy Stewart gets his way outside to the 45, and he's finally brought down. The tackle is made on the play by Greg Brick, a 26-yard return. 10 plays, 4:07 on the clock. It covered 55 yards, and Brad Elberg with the 1-yard run. But you heard Tim Pendergast say a moment ago the big play was the 28-yard catch and run by Rob Weir that really spread out the St. Mary's defense.
Well, St. Mary's defense said you've got to try and throw the ball against us. We're challenging you, and Queens managed to come out and complete that pass. And that should start to open up the run game for them. A little bit of their concern about Tim Pendergast. But now it's David Sykes' turn for the St. Mary's Huskies.
We'll see if he starts to throw the ball a little deeper. He's up and throwing here, and yes, indeed, he is going over the top. Looking there for Charles Ash, and a flag is down. Pass interference will undoubtedly be the call against James Patterson, but that is only a 15-yard penalty in amateur football, as you heard Ken Green tell John Wells earlier.
Offensive pass interference. Queens, number 8, first down.
Well, that would be defensive pass interference, but the result is the same.
You can see here that Patterson looks around, and he's kind of got his hands in there touching Charles Ash, so that's why the official called it. If he had just turned around and tried to play the ball, he's entitled to that position, but he got his hands in there on Ash, and I think it's a good call by the official.
First and 10 from the Queens' 49-yard line. Should be the final play of the first quarter. Screen pass. And they get it out there to Mongi. And Mongi puts his head down with Mark Morrison and gets down to about the 41-yard line. A gain of 10 yards. And that is indeed the final play of the first quarter. Queens has scored first. The Golden Gaels lead the Huskies 7-0. Back with the second quarter of the 1992 Vanier Cup in just a moment. Nothing. Queens leads St. Mary's. Let's go down to Paul Romanek on the St. Mary's bench.
Hey, score. David Houston with me. Best offense you faced this year?
Not really. I'd say Monet is still the best offense we faced this year.
What were they able to do successfully on that drive that a lot of other teams weren't able to do against you this year?
Well, unfortunately, I got suckered in by a play action up the middle, and they got the pass off. We stopped them on the goal line, but unfortunately, they gave them a touchdown.
Alberg's going to be greasy, hard to get a hold of.
Not really. The boys are wrapping him up pretty well. I think he's a good runner and all, but our boys will show him.
Thanks, David.
And thank you, Paul. David Houston, certainly not a man lacking in self-confidence, nor is his defense. They felt they had stopped Brad Elberg on 3rd and goal from the 1. As we open the second quarter, St. Mary's has its 2nd and 2 from the Queens' 41-yard line. Make it a long one. And Sykes goes straight ahead. He should have the first down. We finally saw him do some passing up the field late in that first quarter, Jamie, and that would seem to be important.
Well, I think it's going to be important for St. Mary's to establish their throwing game as well, and they just can't throw the ball out into the flats. Take a look at the first quarter stats. Passing yards, of course, favor Queens right now. That long reception to Rob Weir. Net yards 86 to 64. Uncharacteristic for St. Mary's to have that many yards against them in the first quarter. Normally they hold teams to less than 200 yards in offense.
Intriguing that St. Mary's actually outrushed Queens in that first quarter. It is a first down from the Queens' 38-yard line. Sykes with time, looking deep. Again for Charles Ash. Touchdown, St. Mary's. But a flag is down in the Huskies' backfield, and this is coming back. Charles Ash with the great catch, and David Sykes with a great throw, but a holding penalty will...
Holding! 67, St. Mary's!
Ted McLean is called for holding, and it nullifies a 38-yard touchdown catch by Charles Ash.
Left-hand side of your screen, yeah, he's not only holding him, that's actually a pretty good throw in WWF. No question about that, that's holding.
That's bulldogging is what that is. 10-yard penalty, 1st and 20 now from the 48. But what kind of effect will this have emotionally on the Huskies, who thought they had tied the game? Sykes under pressure. Rolling to his right. Lewin is after him and trips him up. Jamie Lewin got a hand on the shoelace of David Sykes and brought him down at midfield, actually inside St. Mary's territory at the 54.
And you know, we take a look at Lewin and both Mark Johnson. They're listed as defensive ends. They really look like linebackers. Lewin's 5'11", 200 pounds. They say he runs a 4.6 40. I'll tell you what, you're not too many defensive ends at any level of football run that fast. And he managed just to get the shoes of David Sykes to bring him down for a loss.
Which now brings the ever popular 2nd and 28 situation. Well, maybe that long pass to Charles Ash is there once again. Lined up at the top of your screen. Sykes, quick drop again, throwing it up high. He's looking for Steve Sardi. Sardi runs underneath it, and the ball comes loose as James Patterson got back to make the catch. But Sykes' pass was almost like a punt.
Well, you know, that's not a bad pass, though, Gord, because James Patterson is only 5 feet 8 inches tall. Steve Sardi, 6'4". They're looking for a jump ball. And it's St. Mary's are not disguising anything. They're going after James Patterson today. Now, James Patterson makes a great play there, holding the arms of Steve Sardi after the ball has been touched to strip the ball away from him. But James Patterson only had 1 interception through the regular season, but he's had 4 interceptions so far in the last 3 playoff games. So it looks like St. Mary's are trying to pick on him right now.
And the touchdown that was called back. Certainly looming large now for the St. Mary's Huskies. Again, back to punt. High snap, he brings it down. And it's a wobbly punt that rolls out of bounds right at about the 32-yard line of Queens. A 25-yard kick by Sagan, and not much for the folks on the St. Mary's side to cheer about right now, although they were up on their feet a moment ago when they thought Charles Ash had scored the touchdown. Apparently you couldn't get a bus out of Kingston today, Jamie. They were all here having brought Queens fans to the Sky Dome for Vanier Cup.
Well, it's great to see that kind of enthusiasm from the Queens fans. They had that rally last night at Nathan Phillips Square. Queens, of course, only 2.5 hours down the 401.
First and 10 for the Golden Gaels from their own 32-yard line. Kozan took the fake from Pendergast, who had the ball. He was dropped immediately by Greg Foran. That dive option goes to work for Queens.
And you know what? St. Mary's have seen this before because Mount Allison will run the option on you. So this is nothing new for St. Mary's. They have seen this before. They know who to take. They have all the responsibilities are set. They know who's going to take the dive man, who's going to take the quarterback, who's taking the pitch man.
Elberg is now flanked out as a slot back at the bottom of your screen. Here's Pendergast looking deep. He's got Alford open, and here he goes to the races. Brian Alford. Touchdown, Queen. No flag. A 78-yard pass and run touchdown.
Brian Alford, the wide receiver, was Rookie of the Year for the track team, and then he switched over to football. You can see why he was such a great track and field performer. Ran the 400 meters. He just fries David Houston, the defensive back. And that was a great pass by Tim Pendergast. Watch how high he throws this ball, and he just allows Alford to run underneath it. Takes the pass in full stride. And Queens have stunned St. Mary's.
A 78-yard pass and run touchdown from Tim Pendergast to Brian Alford. Alford, who had just 6 catches in the regular season and no touchdown. We're back to Sky Dome in just a moment. I guess David Houston might be a little on the sideline. What's that? Queens leading St. Mary's 14-0 as the Queens side of Sky Dome is electric.
And you know, Gord, they say with your defensive back, if you're even, you're leaving. And I'll tell you what, the ball was thrown before Alford even got to Houston. And look at Tim Pendergast. Yes, he likes it.
Let's go to Lee Pedersen.
Thank you, Gord. Coach, hey, this is the St. Mary's team that's not used to being behind. What does Larry Utek have to tell these guys? Are they shell-shocked being down by 14?
This is a tough time for the football team, and it's important now for the coaches to make sure that the kids understand there's a lot of time left in the football game. It's not over with. It's one big play, a little bit of a drive. They've got to hang in there, believe in themselves, and overcome the adversity. And that's the key thing I think that coaches need to do at this point in the football game.
I agree with you. Don't let them get uptight. Gord, back to you.
How can you not be uptight at this point, though, Jamie?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're St. Mary's and you're Larry Utek, you've got to, I think I agree with Ian Breck, you got to calm your team down and say, listen, we're not out of this game by any means. We've been stung by 2 big plays throwing the football. You dare Queens to throw it. They've shown you can do that. Now they got to worry a little bit about the pass.
Galloway's kick is taken by Kent Gallinger from the 15-yard line. And he battles his way up across the 25 to about the 28. Let's go down to Rod Smith with the man of the moment for Queens.
Yeah, scored. Brian Alford, the guy who just scored that touchdown. Brian, it seems like St. Mary's that we've been talking about have been daring Queens to pass. Could you see something like this in their coverage coming?
Yes, we were watching film and we noticed, we thought that would be open against them, and I guess it was.
It's a happy bench now, but a long way to go, isn't it?
Definitely. We want to win this pretty bad.
Thank you.
Brian Alford with the understatement of the day so far. Yeah, it was there, all right. First and 10, St. Mary's. The Huskies have the ball at their own 28-yard line. And they go back to the ground with the give to the lead back, Anthony Oxley, as Jamie Lewin makes the stop. 2 plays, 79 yards, 78 of them come on the Pendergast to Alford completion. So Queens has shown it can drive the ball and it can strike quickly.
And how costly was that holding penalty? I mean, that is a 14-point swing right there. It looks like St. Mary's had the game tied. Now they're down by 14 points.
Gain was 3 at 2nd and 7. St. Mary's from the 31. We'll see if they go back to the deep pass to Charles Ash. No, they keep it on the ground. They give it to Monge, and Scott Zulich stepped right into him to make the stop. No gain, maybe even a loss of 1 for Monge, and out comes the punting unit.
Well, Queens are coming up trying to show that they're going to bring a safety blitz, and they drop Dagnoni off, but Zulich makes a great play to get around the blocker and stuff Sean Monge on the draw.
And Sagan is into punt. Kind of surprising they'd be that conservative on 2nd down, Jamie.
Yeah, they're going to have to throw the ball as well to get into this football game. You cannot be a one-dimensional team and hope to win the Vanier Cup.
Jovanic from the 47. Tries to get outside, got maybe 3 up to the Queens 51-yard line. A 4-yard return after a punt of 34. Oh, there's Homer.
And you know what? We were at Queens homecoming a few years ago, and we saw Bart there, and the whole family was there because we said that Bart Simpson had gone to Queens University. Now we see Homer. He must be an alum.
There you go. Where's Marge? Now 1st and 10, Queens. The Golden Gaels from their own 51. And a chance for Queens to really put St. Mary's down. Gaels lead 14-0. On the ground, here's Elberg. And Elberg is still looking for some room to run out there. The tackle is made on the play by number 66, Tony Bailey.
And you know, they're just going to keep pulling the trigger with Brad Elberg. He's such an explosive player. All you need to give him as a seam is take a look at Tony Bailey. Did not play high school football from Lockport, Nova Scotia. Went to Shelburne District, came to St. Mary's.
What did he do in high school?
Larry Utek actually tried him out when he came to St. Mary's because he was a great athlete and turned into be a pretty fine defensive football player.
Gain was 5 by Elberg. It is 2nd and 5. And here is Elberg once more. Stumbled a bit and didn't get much. As in once again was the linebacker Brian Johnson. Also up to help out was Noah Cantor, number 79.
Yeah, Noah Cantor.
Elberg is stopped short.
Sorry, Gordon. Noah Cantor was an All-Canadian a year ago out of Ashbury Secondary School in Ottawa. He said that he and Paul Beresford, the other fullback for Queens, lived on the same street. So they were reacquainting each other this week, but not giving away any secrets, of course.
On 3rd and 4, Jamie Galloway is on to punt once more. Gallinger and Stewart are back deep to receive. Not a bad punt by Galloway, taken by Gallinger at the 20, and he fights his way up to about the 27 as a late flag comes down. And there is also an injured St. Mary's Husky at midfield. A 33-yard punt and a return of 9. We'll see what the flag's all about. And the injured player is Greg Foran from St. Mary's. Check that. It is Noah Cantor.
Unnecessary roughness. 49 Queens on the face mask. First down.
The call goes against Rob Thurger, the backup linebacker and special team standout. And as a result, it'll be a first down for St. Mary's at the 43 as they attend to Noah Cantor.
The number 49 right in the front of your screen, and he's got a hold of the face mask. And the official right there to throw the flag. Last week we saw Thurger come into the football game playing defense because of the injuries to Peter Payne, Greg Brick, and I think Mike Boom were all out at one time. We even saw Brad Elberg talking to Doug Hargraves and trying to convince Hargraves to put him in the football game as a linebacker. Looks like Noah Cantor is all right.
It's a first down for St. Mary's from the 43. 8:32 to play in the second quarter. The Huskies trail this game 14-0. Sykes with time over the middle, and it is complete. Charles Ash makes the catch. And making the stop, James Patterson. So Ash gets one that counts finally. He had a touchdown called back earlier.
And this is a bit unusual because earlier in the show we saw James Patterson talking about how Queens is primarily his own team. They're starting to play a little bit of man-to-man coverage in here. The Charles Ash, who's out of Tampa, Florida, is their speedster. Also shows he has great hands, 20 catches on the season. Now look at his average. He averages close to 26 yards per reception.
A 20-yard gain there. First down, St. Mary's. Here's Mongi cutting it back up and not getting far as Peter Payne, the linebacker, was in to make the stop after a gain of 2. Payne, Brick, and Boone, the linebacking core for the Queens Golden Gaels. Sounds like a cement contracting company.
It's like Noah Cantor on the St. Mary's sidelines is okay. He'll be back in the football game.
Gain of 2 brings up a 2nd and 8 for St. Mary's. And the Huskies would dearly love to get something, anything on this drive. Anthony Williams goes in motion on 2nd and 8. Sykes bumped into his own man, lost the football, still loose. And finally, I think it is Queens football. As jumping on the loose ball was Jamie Lewin. It looked like Sean Mongi had managed to recover it, but Lewin comes up with the loose ball. And that's another key play that you look at as a turning point, Jamie.
Well, David Sykes is pulling out. He just collides with Anthony Oxley, and Oxley knocks the ball away. And now the ball's a free ball. It looks like Sean Mongi's coming in there to get it, but he does not gain control of it, and Jamie Lewin steals it away from him.
First turnover of the football game gives Queens a first down at its own 51-yard line. 7 minutes to play in the second quarter. It's been all Golden Gaels so far. And now miscommunication in the Queens backfield as Pendergast looked around. Didn't have anyone home and finally just got dropped as he was looking for Paul Kozan on the handoff.
Jamie Lewin taking a well-deserved rest right now at a Lower Canada college.
Here we go again.
He probably got smacked on the chin. He did when he recovered that fumble.
Now trying to run option here again, but Kozan goes to the wrong side. Maybe Kozan thought it was trapped because he came to the other side of the quarterback looking to wheel it back.
Loss of 2. It's 2nd and 12. Pendergast once again has a man open. Ed Kidd turned just a moment too late because he had his man beaten. His back on the coverage was Cecil Curry.
You know, Tim Pendergast was just hoping for a little bit more time to throw. You can see the pass rush here. He has to get the ball away quickly, not get his feet set, and the ball falls a little bit short of Ed Kidd. This St. Mary's defense, and you think of it, Gord, they had 63 sacks this season in 8 games. They averaged 8 sacks per game. And today they have yet to get to Tim Pendergast.
David Sykes just received a pep talk from his teammates on the St. Mary's sidelines. Low spiraling kick, bounces at about the 35 and back towards the Golden Gaels. It's marked out of bounds at about the 39-yard line. 14-0 Queens lead. St. Mary's has the ball, and we'll see how they do when we come back.
Everything going the way of the Queens Golden Gaels right here. Jamie Lewin with the fumble recovery, missed exchange in the backfield. I'm going to show you what happened right here. How about Mark Johnson from the nose? The nice penetration. He meets Oxley right here. The ball comes loose. Hey, here's Jamie Lewin at the top of the screen. He's just kind of fooling around out here, and he comes in and gets the fumble recovery. Let it roll. But the Queens Golden Gaels, I mean, you talk about letter perfect here. The good penetration, there it is. The ball comes loose, and who's there, John? He out-wrestles Mongi for the football, Jamie Lewin. What a huge play. Queens doing everything right here in the first half. Gordon?
And Jamie Lewin still lying down on the cart. Looks like he cut his chin recovering that football. And penalty against St. Mary's for an illegal block, and the Huskies will now start at their own 24-yard line with 5:46 to play in the second quarter. They fake the toss to Mongi. Now under pressure is Sykes, back across the middle, but incomplete as you look there for Anthony Williams. And David Sykes looks pretty shaky right now, Jamie.
Well, I don't think it's just his fault. I mean, his offensive line right now, they're letting a lot of people get into him. They're trying to run bootleg action, pulling the guard outside to give him a personal escort that he can set up. You can see the backside collapses, and he has to get rid of the ball before he wants to. He was trying to throw it across the middle to Anthony Williams. If you give David Sykes the time to throw the ball, he'll kill you. But that's the key to what Queens are trying to do today. Don't give him that kind of time to throw. Force him to make a quick decision.
On 2nd and 10 from the 24. Sykes again, looking for Sardi, and that's a one-hopper off the turf. Incomplete. David Sykes won the Russ Jackson Trophy yesterday as the outstanding student, scholar, and citizen in the CIAU. And I can't think of a more deserving one.
And gave one of the great speeches, acceptance speeches, that you'll hear anywhere. Truly a remarkable guy.
Dana Sagan's going to need a new pair of shoes when this day is done. His 6th punt of the football game comes with 5:10 to play in the 2nd quarter. Not much pressure, but a huge punt by Sagan, who got drilled at the end, dropping it as Jovanic in his tracks at the 44. A 42-yard punt by Sagan, who got nailed at the end, but there is no flag.
Yeah, he wanted a flag because he thought Joel Dagnone, who was coming in rushing the punt, hit him, and the official right there, let's take a look at it. He did get hit. I guess the official felt that he must have been blocked into him. Sagan trying to plead his case.
And once again, pleading to no avail. Noah gets a lot of complaints on football fields, ice rinks, baseball diamonds. 1st and 10, Queens from the 44. And they take it straight up the middle with Kozan.
And, you know, they're trying to run the inside trap, but you know what? When you're running a 43 defense, as St. Mary's is right now, and you've got Iliopoulos playing there, it's recognition of what's happening. Once he sees the guard pull, Iliopoulos comes underneath and makes a great play.
Gain of 1, make it 2nd and 9, Queens from the 45-yard line. Clock working its way down to 4 minutes now in the 2nd quarter. And once again, Pendergast is looking deep, and the flag goes down as he looks for Ed Kidd, and all over him was Cecil Curry. And that will be a Queens 1st down, undoubtedly.
Defensive pass interference, St. Mary's number 31.
St. Mary's right now must feel that everything is stacked against him at this point in the football game. Tim Pendergast dropping back. Again, a good pass rush. Has to get rid of the ball early. The official right there saying that Cecil Curry grabbed Ed Kidd before the ball was there.
The penalty gives Queens a 1st down in St. Mary's territory at the Huskies 51. Back to the ground. The toss to Elberg. Bouncing outside and cuts it back inside for a gain of about 4. He is finally brought down by Alex Iliopoulos, and once again Iliopoulos and Elberg have words.
You know, the incredible thing about the St. Mary's defense, you know, they're not a very big team defensively. I mean, big is a relative word. They average about 250 pounds, but they run so well. You know, they're just trying to run toss here where they just try to engage all the defensive linemen, lead with Kozan kicking out and let Elberg either cut underneath or outrun it. Well, you see when he gets out there, there's all sorts of people out there waiting for him. This is a very athletic defense.
2nd and 5 from the 41. The fake to Elberg. Pendergast has it knocked up in the air. It was almost intercepted as running after it was Tony Bailey.
They're lucky he didn't get his hands on it, or he would have been in the end zone. But St. Mary's deciding to come with a few gadgets themselves on defense, bringing Trevor Burke to safety on a blitz.
And on the St. Mary's sidelines, more pep talks for David Sykes. He's an intelligent young man. I'm sure he knows what he has to do out there. And he's had an all right day so far.
You know, they had to get Sean Monge into the football game.
High snap for Galloway's punt. He just gets it away, and what a beauty. High spiraling punt. Taken by Gallinger at the 5, and he'll get no further. Great play on special teams by Rob Weir. Weir, number 12, dragged him down from behind. It's a 41-yard punt. A loss of 1 on the return, and the Huskies will have the ball at their own 4 when we return to the 1992 Vanier Cup. 12 made the play, though.
Yeah, I know.
Weir made the play.
Boy, what a hit, eh?
Yeah.
That's when you get fumbled.
Yeah.
Guy turns, boom.
A touchdown late in the first quarter, another early in the second gives Queens the lead. It now enjoys 14-0 over Larry Utek and the St. Mary's Huskies, making their 3rd appearance in the Vanier Cup in 5 years. And Jamie, you hate to say it, but if St. Mary's loses today, the old comments will come back about the AUAA.
And you can see Larry Utek usually keeps his jacket on. I'm not sure if that's because of the heat of the building or because of the high anxiousness that I'm sure that he's feeling right now with his offense starting their drive in the shadow of their own goal line.
1st and 10 for the Huskies from their own 4. Sykes quickly to the sidelines to Ash, who's trying to find something and does. Ash with some nice work to get about 9 yards up to the 13-yard line.
You know, the game we did earlier this year between St. Mary's and Mount Allison, Charles Ash did not play very much in that football game. Suffering from an injury at that time, but you can see the kind of feet that he has. 6'2", 170 pounds. Takes a lot of courage to come back inside, especially when there's no help.
And Ash has also run the ball 4 times in the regular season on reverses. Sykes goes straight ahead and should have the first down for St. Mary's with 2:07 to play in the second quarter. A football player,
Brad Alberg. I always have to say this every time I see him because he always says to us, hey, I want to play, scout, coach, eat, sleep, and breathe football till the day I die. That's an intense football player.
1st and 10, St. Mary's from the Huskies' 15-yard line. Again, it is Sykes to Ash quickly, and this time nobody on the Queens sideline is fooled. As jumping up into the play was Mark Johnson along with Peter Payne. How long do we see the out and up?
Yeah, out and up, or actually the hitch pitch, one or the other. We're going to try and maybe throw it out to Ash, and maybe he'll toss it down the field. But, you know, this is a good job by David Sykes. He realizes that Ash last time got 9 yards. Why not try and give it to him again? You can see Chris McCormick comes up, and then he gets help from Max Turner and, of course, linebacker Peter Payne.
Now 2nd and 9 from the 16. Sykes to Sardi, and they'll call it a catch up at about the 26-yard line. Close coverage by James Patterson, but Sardi makes the catch for the first down.
Well, Patterson breaks pretty well on the ball, but we talked about how big Steve Sardi is, 6'4". Watch how his body helps protect the ball. David Sykes getting hit.
Tim Ware in to take the shot at him.
Steve Sardi out of Truro, Nova Scotia, played for the Cobequid Educational Center Cougars, a team that I used to know well because I played in that division with QEH High School back a few years back.
It was a gain of 11, first down. Now they get out to the flat to Anthony Williams. Williams working on Max Turner, who just rides him down to about the 30-yard line. Chris McCormick also in to help out on the stop.
And you know, the key right there, Gord, is they don't allow Williams to get his shoulders turned upfield. That's a good job by Max Turner. Anthony Williams had the biggest game of his life back in 1990 when he caught the winning touchdown pass in the Atlantic Bowl. Chris Flynn, with only a few seconds left on the clock, played at Prince Andrew High School in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
Had just 1 catch last week, but it was a 19-yard touchdown reception. 2nd down, Sykes is looking deep. He's got a man open, but he can't get it to him. He was looking over the top for Mike Messam. First pass we've seen thrown in his direction today, and it's too far.
Got a great crowd here this afternoon for the 28th Vanier Cup.
And the majority of the fans from Kingston, Ontario, about 2 hours down the highway from Toronto. A 3rd down situation with 47 seconds left. Dana Seguin is back to punt once more. Another low driving kick. Jovic from the 49. Steps across midfield, gets a block, and here he goes. Jovic down to the 37-yard line.
And you know what? A key punt return for Queens, because now they are in Jamie Galloway's field goal range at this moment. His longest of the year has been 47. This is a great job, because, you know, he gets the ball, he goes straight up the field. All the people are still running down on punt coverage. They're still in their lanes. They haven't broken down yet.
And Chris Goddard got down to make the stop.
And he is the offensive center.
1st and 10 Queens from the St. Mary's 38-yard line. 35 seconds to play in the first half. Pendergast out to the flat, complete to Paul Kozan. Kozan decides not to head for the sidelines, has lots of room to run, and gets all the way down to the 23-yard line before he's stacked up by a group of St. Mary's Huskies.
And, you know, this is a great read by Tim Pendergast. You know, he's got Kozan out in the flat, and the linebacker who's got him comes in right away. You can see it. Number 65, Brian Johnson, and Pendergast knows where his man is, dumps the ball outside, and then Kozan shows the kind of ability that he has. He was the big back in Regina. It was not Brad Elberg in high school, but Paul Kozan when he attended Sheldon Williams. He was back of the year.
It was a gain of 15, 1st and 10 from the 23-yard line. The toss to Elberg. He's got room to run. Elberg gets outside. Here he goes. Elberg! Touchdown, Queens! Brad Elberg from 23 yards out.
The other half of that Regina connection. First it was Paul Kozan, now it's Brad Elberg taking the pitch outside. Queens come up to the ball. They snap the ball very quickly, and he manages to get around the corner, and now it's just his speed takes over. They say Elberg runs a 4.3340. Some people might dispute that, but there's no question he's one of the fastest men in the CIAU.
Galloway with the convert. 21-0 Queens with 4 seconds to play in the first half. The Golden Gaels seeking their first national championship since 1978. Brad Elberg, you know, was nominated for the Heck Crichton Trophy, didn't win it the other night, and all I could say afterwards was, I'm glad this is all over. I just want to play the game.
It's the kind of player he is. Doug Hargrave said when he recruited him out of Tom Collegiate, he was a running back who ran a 4.940. He wasn't very strong, and nobody really recruited him.
In fact, one coach from Saskatchewan says that Brad Elberg might have been the 5th best running back in high school football in the province of Saskatchewan that year.
Well, they had some great backs out of there. Byron Davy Duke, of course. We talked about Paul Kozan. Davy Duke played for University of Saskatchewan. And now Brad Elberg, who said he wants to play pro with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And many think will be a first-round draft choice in this year's CFL College Draft.
4 seconds to play in the first half. They're dancing on the Queens sidelines. And the kickoff is taken back there by Jeremy Stewart. Stewart reverses his field, finds his way outside, needs a block, doesn't get it. As there to make the tackle for Queens was Aaron Campbell, the defensive back. And that is the completion of the first half. Color it gold. It is all Golden Gaels. Queens leads this game 21-0 as we go to halftime. Let's go down to Rod Smith.
Thank you very much, Gord. Doug Hargraves. I had asked you this last week when you had a substantial lead. You have a substantial lead again. What do you say to a group that's playing so well at halftime, or do you say anything?
Well, you're telling the score is 0-0. And we obviously, there are 30 minutes left in the football game. St. Mary's is not a shabby football team. We have to up the intensity. We have to keep on going and do the good things we've been doing, eliminate the bad things, and hope that everything works out.
You preach caution, as you usually do. Before the game, you were talking about your concerns about St. Mary's, the fact that they're big, they're fast, and they're experienced. Because they are down, is that the kind of team that can come back with the experience they have?
Oh, absolutely. What do you think they're going to be talking about at halftime? They'll be talking about our game last year, how we almost folded against last week. You know, we're going to talk about that, the possibility that it's entirely possible to come back. Absolutely.
So you do plan on bringing up even the things of Queen's past, like last year or even last week's game where the lead narrowed quite a bit?
Well, only because you brought it up, Rod.
Okay. I can't bring up too many bad things. You must be very happy with the way this team has played this first half.
Yeah, I would kind of like it to stop right here, but we're going to have to play another 30 minutes.
Just one final thing, that holding penalty, that seemed to be, at least at this first half anyway, a real turning point.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Doug. Good luck in the second half. Gordon.
All right, thanks very much, Rod. Doug Hargraves is a happy man, and so he should be. It's Queens Golden Gaels lead St. Mary's 21-0. Halftime of the Vanier Cup is coming up next.
Welcome back to Skydome and Vanier Cup 92 at the half. Queens leading St. Mary's 21-0. Let's move over to sidelines now and review some significant plays of the half with Leif Pedersen and CIAU Coach of the Year, Ian Breck.
Thanks very much, John. Well, Ian, hey, if you could have wrote a script for Doug Hargraves, it couldn't have been any better than the way Queens played in the first half.
I'm sure Doug is very pleased with the way things have gone. Queens is playing exceptionally well. The thing they're not doing is making mistakes. They're not hurting themselves. It's error-free football. They've made a couple of big plays as well, and it's 21-0. It's a great effort from the Queens team.
You talk about not hurting yourself. What Ian and I call really the turning point in the first half was an unfortunate holding call that occurred on St. Mary's. You know, Queens had gone ahead 7-0, and St. Mary's had a wonderful opportunity here, but the holding penalty is going to call his touchdown back.
Well, you never like to have a penalty or a call take something away that important, but it was flagrant. It was made right in front of the official. He had no choice but to call a play. You got to feel badly for the young man. I'm sure he's going to feel responsible for that play for a long time. But the thing that the St. Mary's team have to do is to remember, hey, we were successful. Let's try to do that again.
You know, it would have been 7-7. On the next series, Brian Alford scores a touchdown, and Brian Elberg had 2 touchdowns in that half. Brad Elberg had 2 touchdowns in that half, a super half for him, and his second one was a picture of beauty. You know, you can't do it all alone. You need a little help from your friends. Here's Paul Kozan, the fullback. Tony Bailey and Brian Johnson are going to work a game. They're coming inside. There's Mark Robinson. He's going to block as Bailey comes to the outside. Here's the block down here. Now, Elberg around to the outside. And although he has some tremendous speed to finally cap off this nice run with a touchdown, he got some great help from his friends up front at the point of attack, and that's all a great back needs is give me those couple of blocks at the point of attack, and of course I can do the rest for you. Ian, quickly, what does St. Mary's have to do? What is Larry Utek saying? 21 zip. They haven't been in this position before.
Well, he's got to remind them that there's a half of football to play. It's not over with. Defensively, they've got to control the Queens offense. They've got to try to limit them to 2 and out. On offense, they can't try to do it all at once. They've got to think of the field as being in 10-yard segments. Get first downs, march the ball. The touchdowns will come if they do that.
So be patient, and maybe St. Mary's can find them back into this one. John?
We talked about it at the start of the game, Jamie, about how it would be a matchup of Queens offense against the St. Mary's defense. It's 21-0 at the half. It would seem to be it's been decidedly Queens so far.
Yes, right now Queens offense really has the upper hand on the St. Mary's defense, and not only they weren't running the ball actually all that well, it was due to the passing of Tim Pendergast that got them down close to the goal line first in the football game, and then they managed to get the running game in gear.
Now, a Rob Weir 26-yard reception really seemed to open things up vertically for Queens, and that really opened things up for the first touchdown.
That's right, and then they had to go in that big gamble, 3rd down and 1 on the goal line. They try to run the ball off tackle, and a real battle of wills right here. Brad Elberg being stopped at the goal line, it looked like, by Alex Iliopoulos, but the official said that Elberg managed to get the ball across the plane of the goal line, and then thus Queens had a 7-0 lead in the first quarter.
That was a 10-play drive that consumed more than 4 minutes on the clock, and Elberg capped it off with his first of 2 touchdowns on the day. Now, touchdown number 2.
Tim Pendergast throws a great fade here. Look how high he throws the ball and throws it to Brian Alford, runs underneath it in full stride against David Houston. David Houston was playing inside. Alford manages to grab the ball. He's a track man, was Rookie of the Year in track a few years back, and it's 14-0 at this point for Queens.
And it is now 21-0 our score at the half. Now, quick point. Last year in the Churchill Bowl, it was Queens leading Laurier 22-3. This year against Guelph in the Churchill Bowl, 17-2. On both occasions, The opposition managed to come back. Laurier won the game last year. Guelph came close last week.
Well, one thing Queens has to guard against right now is being conservative. They have to come out, like Doug Hargraves said, the score is 0-0, and they've got to continue to throw the football if they want to win this football game.
All right, the second half is coming up. It is 21-0 Queens. This man has a pair of touchdowns. We'll return to Skydome in just a moment. Queens leads 21-0 over St. Mary's. The second half to come, and Paul Romanek is standing by with Larry Utek of the St. Mary's Huskies.
Larry, what everyone is wondering is, what do you say to the team between the half? Is the most crucial thing to keep these guys in a frame of mind where they won't panic?
Well, that's just it. We just try to calm them down, say they scored 21 points in one quarter. We have a whole half to do it. I know these guys can do it. We've been down before throughout the season. We've always been slow start, and it's a little more than I would like, but we'll come back.
Fair to say you didn't expect them to be able to pass as well as they have?
No, they had 2 big plays, and that's all. They had 2 big plays, and we had some stupid penalties, and that's been the difference as far as I'm concerned.
Will you change much to try to contain Elberg, or are you pleased with the way things have gone that way?
Oh, I'm pleased with that. We haven't done anything to start with to contain them, and I'm confident we'll do a good job this time.
Good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
And if there is to be a comeback by the Huskies, it will depend very much upon this man's performance. David Sykes, the quarterback for St. Mary's. Jamie, as we kick off the second half, we'll see if St. Mary's can do what other teams have done before to Queen. Here comes Jeremy Stewart on the return. A flag is down as Stewart gets out to the 52-yard line. And we'll see what the flag is all about. It is once again an illegal block, and if my lip reading is correct, it is against Dwayne Brosseau, number 58.
And you know, this is really what's been affecting St. Mary's now. Big penalties for them at critical times in the football game. That's not necessarily a critical time for them, but when you have some yardage going, you want to give David Sykes a chance to have the ball in proper field position, good field position. Actually, in a pretty good first half, 9 of 14, not a lot of yardage. And that's going to have to change if St. Mary's hope to win. They're taking St. Mary's out of their game plan right now. They wanted to run the football, I'm sure, with Oxley and Monge. But now David Sykes is going to have to throw the football.
On 1st and 10 from the 31, they give to Anthony Williams on the counter. And Williams gets up to about the 35-yard line. Let's go down to Rod Smith.
Well, Gord, is what you and Jamie were talking about. A little bit of a surprise on the part of the Queen's defense that St. Mary's abandoned the run later in the game. They seem to be running the ball very well. And now that they're 21 points down, as Jamie pointed out, they won't be able to run the ball very often. The time will come when they have to put it up in the air.
The game by Williams was 5. It's 2nd and 5. One problem Sykes and the offense had in the first half is they didn't have a ball very much. Now on 2nd down, Sykes to throw over the middle. He's got Williams open, but a nice defensive play to knock it down is sticking the hand up was linebacker Mike Boone. So the pass is going to 33 from St. Mary's, but 33 from Queens knocks it down. 213 net yards for Queens, 109 for St. Mary's. The one turnover, a fumble by David Sykes on a miscommunication in the backfield.
And what's surprising here for Queens is the amount of yards they have passing, twice as many as they have rushing.
143 yards passing for Tim Pendergast in that first half, and as Larry Utek pointed out, a bulk of that yardage came on a couple of big plays. But it's 2 and out for St. Mary's. Dana Sagan with a wobbly punt. Jovanic let it go right by him as he missed it. He and Mark Morrison miscommunicated. Falling on the ball is Cecil Curry, but no one had touched it, and as a result, no yards will be the call against St. Mary's. Cosby Jackson is warming up on the St. Mary's sidelines. He attempted just 23 passes in the regular season. I wonder if we'll see him. I'd be surprised if they'd go to him at any point in the football game. David Sykes got you this far. You're 10-0 on the season. And as a great coach once said, you got to dance with the ones you run.
Well, I agree with that. I think Cosby Jackson might just be warming up to keep his mind off the game or keep into the football game. I don't see them replacing David Sykes at all. Tim Pendergast's numbers at the half, 4 of 9. You know, that's his season right there. He's a 45% passer, but that 1 touchdown and 143 yards, he manages to come up with the big plays when they need them.
The one thing about Tim Pendergast is his touchdown to interception ratio is not very good. Has not yet thrown an interception in this football game against a ball-hawking St. Mary's defense. Here's Elberg. And they can't contain him. Elberg winds his way across the midfield stripe. Still going. Elberg gets outside. Room to run. To the 30 and finally tripped up from behind. Brad Elberg. As catching him from behind was Brian Walker, but not before Elberg had a gain of 42 yards. Contain him. Not yet.
Incredible. Off tackle, you see Kevin Parker, the guard, actually runs through there untouched as well, and now Elberg does it all on his own. Just look at the feet. Look at the legs on this guy. Now he switches the ball, and now it's a foot race. Brian Walker's got a bit of an angle on him, and he brings him down. But Brad Elberg starts to explode. You think of the St. Mary's defense a week ago held Craig Kittleson to only 75 yards rushing total. Brad Elberg has 102 already.
Here he goes again. Takes Cecil Curry for a ride. And a gain of about 4.
Brad Elberg averaging 110 yards rushing in the 3 playoff games that Queens have been in.
There have been some outstanding rushing performances in Vanier Cup history. Tim Petros holds the record for most rushing yards, 260 in 1983. Glenn Steele of UBC had 236 in 1982. On 2nd and 6. Pendergast over the middle looking for Kidd. Kidd has the catch and is close to the end zone. They will mark him down at the 1. A gain of 22 yards. And now they're making it look easy.
They roll left, and now Pendergast sets up and throws back against the flow. This is a great catch by Ed Kidd against Cecil Curry. And they mark him down on the 1-yard line. Ed Kidd came to Queens as a quarterback initially. They moved him over to slot back because Tim Pendergast was going to be their starter, and they felt that kid was too good of an athlete to have him sitting on the bench.
If Elberg gets the touchdown here, he'll tie the Vanier Cup record. Here he comes. Touchdown! His 3rd of the game.
Well, we said at halftime that Queens could not come out and be conservative. They've been anything but. They give the ball to Brad Elberg again, off tackle. A good job by number 60, Stuart Defoe, the guard. They do that cross block again. They like to do this in that against that 43 defensive look. Kirkwood goes inside and Defoe kicks out and Tony Bailey. And Elberg gets into the end zone.
Galloway with the convert to make it 28-0. It is good. Elberg has tied the Vanier Cup record for most touchdowns in a football game. And he's got a lot more time on the clock to break it. 28-0 is the score in favor of Queens. Elberg's 3 touchdowns in the Vanier Cup game put him in pretty elite company. Andy Cicchini, Chris Gaffney, Peter Ashenko, Terry Gorman have all scored 3 touchdowns in the game. He now shares the record, and there's lots of time to break it. Galloway to kick it off once more. Kickoffs and converts. Been pretty much the order of the day for Galloway. Kent Gallinger takes it at the 15. They fake the reverse to Ash, and Gallinger gets up to about the 35-yard line before he is tackled on the play by Craig Sharp. And that is where the St. Mary's offense will begin. And Sykes remains at quarterback.
This is a situation, Gore, where St. Mary's did not want to get into this situation where they have to throw the ball to get back in the football game because they really haven't had to do it all year long. They come into this game undefeated. They haven't been behind in too many football games.
4 plays, 69 yards. Elberg caps it off with the 1-yard run. And now St. Mary's is very much in the hole. 1st and 10 from its own 34-yard line. Still lots of time. Here's Monge off tackle. I haven't seen him much. And he didn't get far there as Peter Payne tracked him down from behind. The inability to get Monge into the game early really seems to have hurt St. Mary's.
Yeah, it has, because they like to run him with the football. You know, he's had some ankle problems this season, also a Charlie horse problem, but nevertheless, he's rushed for an average of 7.7 yards every time he touches the football.
Gain of 4 and 2nd and 6 from the 38-yard line. 10:45 to play in the third quarter. Sykes to Ash. Ash has the first down as he pulls his way up across the 50, and finally a gang of about 5 Queens tacklers brings him down. But not before Charles Ash has a first down, and Jamie, he caught a pass for an apparent touchdown that was brought back for holding, and that really was a key play in this first half.
So far, that was the turning point in that first half. That was a 14-point swing because they had to give up the football, and Queens managed to go down the field and score on a big play to Brian Alford.
First and 10, St. Mary's from the 52. Lots of time, motioning deep, now screens it out. He was looking there for his running back, Anthony Oxley, and a flag is down.
You're an offensive lineman. You can't touch the football. You're not an eligible receiver.
Talk it over with defensive captain Mike Boone. Here's the call from referee Murray Taylor. Ineligible pass is the call as the referee's mic is not working, and here's a look at it.
Well, they're trying to run screen to Anthony Oxley, and you can see Oxley number 22. What happens, David Sykes turns around, sees all those maroon sweaters in there, and he can't pick out Oxley in time, and he ends up throwing it. Oxley misses it, goes to Chris Goddard. He wisely drops it, but nevertheless he touches the ball and he's an ineligible receiver.
Now on 1st and 20. They fake to Monge inside. Sykes with a nice pass up to Sardi, and Sardi is back to the original line of scrimmage, marked down at about the 52-yard line.
Steve Sardi came into this season as a preseason All-Canadian. Big, tall receiver, 6 foot 4 inches tall. What he does here is nice. He breaks off and now he works back to the football to help the quarterback. Nice job to go down and secure the football.
Sardi's 4th catch of the game now has 32 yards. 9:20 to play in the third quarter. St. Mary's needs to do something here, if for nothing else, to strike some fear into the hearts of Queens, because I don't think the Golden Gaels fear anything or anyone right now. Sykes on 2nd down, over the middle for Sardi once again, and this time the ball comes loose, incomplete.
Right now, David Sykes is a little bit confused in what Queens are doing in their secondary. That time, Joel Dagnoni, the safety, was coming across, and they were doubling up Steve Sardi that time, and actually that's who David Sykes wanted to go and throw to. You see Joel Dagnoni, number 27. He was just actually to the left of your screen, along with Chris McCormick.
Danis again is in once again to punt. Haven't seen any trickery yet from St. Mary's.
And they've got a bag load of tricks in their repertoire.
A fumble Ruski, direct snaps, passes out of punt formation. Sagan with a high spiraling punt. Takes Morrison all the way back to the 15-yard line. Morrison takes a shot and goes no further, as he has dropped in his tracks. A 43-yard kicker, return of 2. Let's go to Rod.
Well, Gord, the last time the Queens Golden Gaels won the Vanier Cup, it was 1978. This gentleman here was the center for that team, Pat Pliszka, and I know it is not over yet, but you must be liking that scoreboard.
Hey, I'll tell you, so far it's been a great game, and Queens has done a heck of a job in the first half, and hopefully they'll continue in the second half.
This must bring back some memories for you.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it brings a lot of memories back to me, and I think one of the key things with this team, as I remember back in '78, is that these guys are focused, and there tends to be a great deal of personalities that are very, very similar, and the work ethic is just absolutely fantastic with this club.
Can you make a comparison between the 1992 Gaels and the ones in '78?
Well, I think the comparisons, I mean, they're very, very similar. As I said just a moment ago, I think the work ethic is there, and all of these guys have stayed focused. And this is a team that's been together for, close to 4 or 5 years. We've got a lot of people graduating this year, and it was much the same as the '78 team, where we had a group of guys that stayed together for 4 to 5 years, and we just all came together in the 1 year and had a fantastic season, just like these guys are right now.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Pat Pliszka, now back to you, Gord.
The game by Kozan was negligible, and now they complete it over to Elberg. Elberg over the middle. Now he's got more room to run, and he's finally brought down by the embattled cornerback, David Houston. We heard Houston say in the first half that they really felt they were playing well defensively and they could handle Queens easily. He was then burned for a touchdown, and now Elberg's running wild again.
Well, Elberg was their leading receiver in this Queens offense throughout the season. With 12 receptions, you can see why they like to get the ball to him. Boy, he is dangerous when he gets his hands on the football in the open field.
MVPs in the last couple of years, that's some pretty good company, and you'd have to think the roof would have to fall in if anyone but Brad Elberg won it. That last game came 20 yards. And here he comes again. Elberg off tackle. Cecil Curry gets him, but not before Elberg's got 5. And you talk about second and long. When was the last time we saw Queens consistently get into those situations? It always seems to be second and 3 and 4.
And, you know, they continue to love to run off tackle because they do have a big offensive line. Mark Robinson, the left tackle, 285 pounds. Rookie of the year for Queens back in 1990.
Gain of 4 to second and 6 from the 40-yard line. 6:50 to play in the third quarter. Queens leading 28-0. The fake to Elberg. Pendergast over the middle and a diving catch. What a great catch by Jovanic, but they're saying the ball hit the turf. Jovanic dove for it and appeared to make a great catch, but the referees say nope, it touched the plastic.
But one thing about Queens that I don't like, they're throwing caution to the wind right now. They're still being aggressive on offense. Stretches out.
Made a catch.
Yeah, looks like he made the catch too, and everybody's booing it as they see it on the Jumbotron here in the Sky Dome. I shouldn't say everybody, the Queens fans are booing it.
St. Mary's fans are still sitting in stunned silence here, waiting for their team to score. Galloway to punt. High snap. Runs around, boots it up, not very far. Right over the middle, it bounces it midfield. Flags fly as it is picked up there by Sean Marriott, the linebacker. This will be aided by a no yards call, just a 23-yard punt. Stay tuned at the conclusion of today's game for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by Sony. There are those who would say that when Queens leads 28-0, you've got them right where you want them, but they had a nervous moment here.
You know, a high snap. It's a good job of getting control of it again. Now, St. Mary's did not have the block on. He had all sorts of time to get himself set. He rushed it a little bit. He didn't have to.
And Hargraves, who saw a snap sail over Galloway's head last year, very nervous about that play. Anthony Oxley off tackle for a couple as he fights his way across the 40.
Well, that's right, Gord. You mentioned that snap over Galloway's head a year ago, and that's what started the turnaround for the Laurier Golden Hawks in the Churchill Bowl.
Check that. That was Anthony Williams on the carry. And a gain of 3. Second and 7 from the 39-yard line. Back to the shotgun now. Sykes fires it out there, incomplete for Sardi. Flag comes down as Chris McCormick may have made contact before the ball got there. And Sardi is hurt.
Looks like he took a shot right in the back by McCormick.
And the call does go against McCormick. It is a first down for the St. Mary's Huskies at the 33-yard line. But right now, the major concern is Steve Sardi, the team's leading receiver, who is on the turf.
See the interference there, but it looks like he got hit on the hip.
He might have landed awkwardly, too. He wasn't hurt too badly. He had time to point out there was a interference play made, and he also jogged up under his own power as he talks to offensive coordinator Bill Robinson.
Steve Sardi was a leading receiver for the St. Mary's Huskies this season. 38 catches, but only a 14.6-yard per catch average, so he is more of a possession receiver.
The biggest penalty in the football game was a holding call against right tackle Ted McLean. That brought back a touchdown reception by Charles Ash. Now it is 1st and 10 from the 33. Sykes, pressure, throws it out to the sideline, and incomplete. He was looking over there for Mike Messam. And once again, it was McCormick on the play, and another flag is down, this time in the St. Mary's backfield.
Nice job by Chris McCormick as we take a look at Mike Messam going down the field. When the ball arrives, he strips him. He pulls his arms back. Right there, he tries to grab his arms, pull it back. A little bit of a face mask there as well. But it was called, I believe.
But the call here is roughing the passer against Queens. Another first down via the penalty route for St. Mary's. The Huskies now have it at the 18-yard line. And they have to score here. It goes without saying. 1st and 10 from the 18-yard line. 4:40 to play in the third quarter. St. Mary's trails 28-0. Draw play. Monge, room to run. Down to the 10 and down to about the 8. Should be close to the first down.
That's a great call in that situation. 1st down and 10. Everybody knows that you have to get the ball into the end zone. You want to try and throw it, you would think. So they get all their defensive linemen working up the field. Then the center goes out, Goddard, and he blocks off Peter Payne. And Monge takes it right up the field.
It's a gain of about 9, so make it 2nd and 1. And Sykes rambles straight ahead. He almost got to the end zone. Finally stacked down at the 2. And there is finally something to cheer about on the St. Mary's sidelines.
Quarterback sneak just takes it off to the right side. You see the gap there, and they just form that V, and he goes straight up the middle for a gain of 7.
And now it is 1st and goal from the 2. And these St. Mary's fans who made the trek from Halifax are on their feet now. 3:50 to play in the third quarter. 1st and goal from the 2.
And they have Brian Johnson in the backfield, I believe, the outside linebacker.
Early movement. And we'll see who jumped first, but in there playing on offense and short yardage was defensive lineman Noah Cantor. We'll see what the call is. And I believe it was on Cantor, illegal procedures. He jumped early.
And that's the situation. Noah Cantor is lined up at tight end. Now he's a defensive lineman. He's not used to hearing the cadence coming from the quarterback. He usually moves on movement of the football. Now he comes back out of the football game.
Now 1st and goal from the 7. Another costly penalty for the Huskies. Seventh play of the drive. 1st and goal. Sykes to the end zone. Incomplete as he looked for Sardi in the corner. And there were 3 Golden Gaels standing around the intended receiver.
They kept both backs in the block when David Sykes went into the spread formation. And they try to isolate Sardi outside against defensive back Chris McCormick. The Queens only came with a 4-man rush and dropped everybody else off.
Now 2nd and goal from the 7. Don't get in here, you'd have to think they'd go for it.
Well, they will go for it if they don't get it in here.
Again, early movement, no flags, and pulling straight ahead once more is Sykes. Mike Messam was 3 strides across the line of scrimmage, but there is no flag. And they'll mark it down at about the 2. Watch the right of your screen.
That's what you call offside. That's not a legal procedure. That is offside. And David Sykes takes the quarterback sneak again when he sees that gap open up.
Now on 3rd and goal from the 2, the big men come back in, including Noah Cantor, who will line up at tight end. What do you call here, Coach?
And Brian Johnson, I think they're going to try and run something off tackle to the right. That's what they attempted to do last time and used. Alex Iliopoulos is also in there, I believe.
And stopped short is Johnson. An outstanding defensive play by Jamie Lewin and the rest of this Queens defense. They bring the linebacker into the backfield, and Brian Johnson is stopped short. chalk it up as a turnover and another disappointment for the Huskies.
Maybe the biggest play the Queens defense has made all day. Third down gamble, and watch Rob Thurger at the top of your screen right here. He's got the lead blocks coming right at him, but what does he do? He stuffs it, makes the hit on Brian Johnson, the linebacker. You talk about big defensive play. I mean, here's a guy taking on two guys. Boom, boom, boom. There, and then he comes up and stuffs the hole. Hey, Queens, I mean, these guys just don't make a mistake, Gord.
Yeah, they haven't thus far, Leifer. Well drawn. Those art lessons paid off. It goes as a turnover, the second of the game for St. Mary's, and now Queens will begin 1st and 10 from its own 2-yard line, leading the game 28-0.
And how big a penalty's been for St. Mary's. I mean, you think of Noah Cantor going offside when they had first down and goal from the 2-yard line.
Look at that. 7.1 yard average on first down. And now Queens begins with a 4-touchdown lead. 1st and 10 from the 2. They give to Elberg. Why not? Here he goes outside once again and fights his way across the 10 to about the 12 to be close to a first down. Let's go down to Rod Smith.
And joining me now, the guy who made that play and stopped that drive, Rob Thurger. Rob, it seems in the past the Queens defense has let up a bit in the second half of ball games. It seems like there's a resolve not to let that happen anymore.
We came in at halftime, we said we're going to play a full game of football, and that's what we're doing. All 12 of us stopped. It wasn't just me. It was one defensive effort, a new defense we put in for this game especially, and it worked. Thank God. It's good to stop them.
Gain by Elberg was 11 yards. And miscommunication in the backfield again. Pendergast will just drop in his tracks. Second time we've seen that today, Jamie.
Yeah, they're trying to run inside trap, and I think Pendergast goes the wrong way because Kozan was going to the inside to take the handoff inside. And Tim Pendergast has a lot on his mind, I'm sure, and that time he ended up going the wrong way. That's when you're most embarrassed as a quarterback, when you go back in the huddle and you have to say, hey, sorry, guys. Even though I called the play, I wasn't quite sure which way to turn.
Loss of a couple. 2nd and 12 now from the 12-yard line. 1:20 to play in the third quarter. Pendergast rolls to his right. As time looks deep, he has Jovanic open. Here comes the ball, and here goes Jovanic. Steve Jovanic all the way down to the 35-yard line before he's finally tackled by Brian Walker, but hold everything, there's a flag. And this is coming back.
You know, Gord, Queens had the right call on because St. Mary's were coming with blitz from the backside. They even brought in Reno Barbati. That's a center. Tom Black was called for holding.
I guess it's only fair since St. Mary's had a touchdown call back earlier. That wipes out a 64-yard completion to Steve Jovanic.
That was a huge play for Queens, and then it all for naught because somebody holding, but they were bringing everybody on the backside for St. Mary's that time. They brought a defensive back, Reno Barbati, who's their 6th DB, into the football game.
Now it's 2nd and 17 from the 6, and they'll just toss it out there to Kozan. Paul Kozan will see what he can get. He's tripped up neatly on a nice defensive play made by Trevor Burke, the All-Canadian. We haven't heard much from him today.
No, you can see what St. Mary's is starting to do right now, and they realize defensively they have to help get this football team back in. Look at the people trying to come inside. You got Barbati, then you've also got Alex Iliopoulos, and Trevor Burke with his nose up in there into the backfield. Now, he's a defensive back, normally plays that safety position, but he's up very tight. They're trying to play man coverage and trying to cause some problems in the Queens backfield so they can get a turnover.
And now Jamie Galloway to punt from his own end zone. Remember the last time they snapped it deep to him, the snap was high. We'll see if St. Mary's puts some more pressure on him. Snap is good. Galloway's low driving punt lands at about the 40, taken there by Kent Gallinger. Gallinger hesitates a moment, heads upfield, still going, and he's finally tackled on the play by Queens' Don Rorwick. A punt of 40, a return of 12 when the Huskies have the ball back.
Got Ian Breck up on sidelines. Leif Pettersson, listen. What do you do if you're the defensive coordinator for Queens now? You've got a 28-0 lead. Forget about St. Mary's. How do you play it? Do you stay aggressive or do you soften it up a touch?
Well, yeah, that's it exactly. You have to continue to play aggressively, because if you play aggressively, you're going to play good defense. They've been doing a nice job of mixing up their coverages. They bring some pressure every once in a while from their secondary with the blitz. They bring the inside linebackers up the middle of the field. Keep doing those things. That's why they've been able to control the St. Mary's offense. Don't stop doing it now.
Yeah, it's a fun job when you're up by 21 points. Don't you agree, Gord?
Yeah, who's the kid over your shoulder?
It's a Queens supporter.
They'll be giving young Stevenson James Bone a run for his money in the Heck Crichton balloting in 2012. Once again, our congratulations, Jamie, on the birth of your first child this week.
Thank you, Gord.
Best wishes to Manon. Sykes now out in the flat, has a complete out there to his intended receiver, David Time, who has his first catch. There it is. Stevenson James Bone. Queens? Well, we have a scoop, and we've got a 28-0 lead for the Gaels over St. Mary's. The fourth quarter is coming up next on Vanier Cup 92. Queens begins the fourth quarter with a 28-0 lead downstairs to the St. Mary's sidelines at Paul Romano.
Well, one of the many reasons the St. Mary's offense has struggled is that running back Sean Monge hasn't been able to get on track, and one reason might be that his right knee is bothering him. It's bothered him the last couple of days, and about 5 minutes ago they gave him a shot of Novocaine, I assume, something to freeze the knee over on the bench. We'll see what happens.
All right, thank you, Paul. St. Mary's now has it at the 32-yard line as they begin the fourth quarter down by 4. Ironically, the lowest score turned in by a losing team came in 1978 when Queens held UBC to just 3 points. On 2nd and 5 from the 32. Sykes has 3 receivers to the near side. Gives it off to Oxley, and Oxley pulls his way for what should be a first down as they spot it down at about the 26. Sean Monge is out of the game.
And this cannot be good news for Larry Utek. Sean Monge all season long bothered by those nagging injuries that continue to haunt you all the way through the season.
And that was a gain of 6. Look at the time of possession thus far, 25-19 for St. Mary's, and the Huskies are losing 28-0.
And it shows you that Queens have been doing it on big football plays.
Sykes over the middle. He was looking once again to David Time, and the pass wasn't quite on time.
You know, they're throwing the ball now a little bit to David Time, the tight end, and you know, for most of the season he wasn't used a lot. Only 11 receptions. See how he gives the little wave of the hand to David Sykes. Sykes throws the ball right there. David Time should have had that football.
Now 2nd and 10 from about the 26. Sykes looking deep over the middle to Ash. Big traffic, and is intercepted. Picked off at the goal line by the safety man, Joel Dagnoni. They'll spot it down at the 1, but it's another Huskies drive snuffed out by a turnover. 3rd turnover of the game by the Huskies today.
You know, Gordon, if you're going to throw this pass, you have to throw this pass high and outside. You cannot throw it inside. Dagnoni comes across from the safety position and makes the interception, his 3rd interception in the playoff. He had 7 during the regular season, so 10 overall.
And 3 guys standing around the receiver.
Well, and their ball was thrown inside, and they all converge on it. He's got to throw that ball high outside so that the receiver can run underneath it. Joel Dagnoni started as a freshman at Queens in his 4th year out of Regiopolis, Notre Dame, a high school in Kingston.
Alberg lines up deep in the backfield. He has 3 touchdowns in the game so far. Needs 1 to set the record, and he is stopped up after a gain of about 1. As moving up to make the stop was Colin O'Donnell. Let's go to Leaf.
Well, Gordon, you know, here's Joel Dagnoni right in the middle of the screen there, and as soon as Sykes takes the ball and looks that way, watch how fast he goes. And, you know, as Jamie pointed out, let it run there, but as Jamie pointed out, you're going to throw this kind of pass, boy, you better put it way to the outside. He hangs it up in the middle, and there's Dagnoni with a nice play.
Gain of 2, and is 2nd and 8 now. Pendergast to throw. He has a man open, and diving for it is Jovic, and it is a great catch. This time they call it complete. All the way up to the 31-yard line, a gain of 29 yards.
Steve Jovic out of Oak Ridge Secondary School in London, Ontario. This is a great pass and catch. Look at this, how he stretches out right at the end. All hands.
Oh.
And then he pulls the ball in to make sure that his arms are underneath it, so securing it. This is how you have to throw that pass, high and outside. I'll tell you what, Steve Jovic and Brian Alford are giving David Houston a lesson today on how to catch the football.
Gain of 28 yards. First down from the 32. Here comes Elberg again. Gets a big block, and he gets about 3 yards. Paul Beresford, the fullback, put his head down and made the block. And Jovic is shaken up on the play. Might have a turf burn.
You know, St. Mary's coming into this game defensively. I don't think they really paid much attention to the receiving core of this Queens Golden Gale football team. They didn't throw the ball a lot during the regular season and as well in the playoffs, but they have come up with some huge receptions so far this afternoon.
Gain of 2, 2nd and 8. Once again, they throw it over to Rob Weir. This time it is picked off. Intercepted by David Houston. A measure of revenge for the cornerback who's been picked on all day. And his team will have a first down at the Queens 51-yard line. First interception of the day thrown by Pendergast.
And this is an interception that you can really credit the defensive line for St. Mary's because they put tremendous pressure on Tim Pendergast. He drops back, watches, he just hits the throw right there, he's hit. So he doesn't get behind the ball, can't really step into the football, so he doesn't have any momentum with the ball going downfield. Noah Cantor puts good pressure on him. Paul Beresford, you know, Beresford's got to stand up and take Noah Cantor on. He can't just kind of dive at his knees, but nevertheless, David Houston comes up with a interception.
And Noah Cantor is the injured St. Mary's Huskies, been down a couple of times today.
And it's funny, you know, we were talking earlier, Noah Cantor from Ottawa, so is Paul Beresford. They live on the same street and they grew up together.
And while we have a moment, let's check in with Leaf.
Well, Jamie talked about Noah Cantor, the defensive end. Here he comes from the outside. Beresford, they double team him, but hey, he beats the block and let it run. And it was the hit on Pendergast by Cantor that results in the interception downfield. But Noah Cantor, hey, he may be down by 28 points, but there's one guy that's really trying his heart out.
Yeah, good point, Leif. And here's another look at the injury. And it was Beresford, I think, diving to make the block as Cantor leaped over him. And Cantor leaves under his own power and should be all right. Interception by Houston gives St. Mary's a first down at the Queens 51-yard line. 11:40 to play. Sykes quickly outside, and Charles Ash flat out dropped. Looking upfield before he had the ball, Jamie.
Yeah, you know, and you can't blame David Sykes. You know, he's trying his heart out right here. He needs a little bit of help from his receivers. It was a great strike here just over the outstretched arms of linebacker Mark Johnson. And then Mark Morrison comes in.
And Ash should have had that. 11:30 to play in the fourth quarter. Sykes goes back to the shotgun. Sykes over the middle looking for Sardi, and it's knocked down by James Patterson, a man who had 2 interceptions last week against Guelph, and he has a knockdown here. And you have to guess that St. Mary's will just go for it on third down, trailing 28-0.
Yeah, I think they're going to be going for it in third down. The other thing they better be concerned about if they want to win this football game or have any chance of winning it, they can't get back into the huddle anymore. They've got to come out and just start running their lightning offense. James Patterson played at Lawrence Park Collegiate just up the street here from the Skydome.
And Sykes will go back to the shotgun on third down. Looking deep over the middle, and it's picked off. Intercepted by linebacker Mike Boone, and now Boone heads up the sidelines all the way up to the 52-yard line. Queens has the ball back, has a 28-0 lead, and there's lots to cheer about on one side of the Sky Dome.
Everybody in the world knows you have to throw the football to get back in this football game. Queens only rush 4 people, drop 8 people off. Their linebackers are getting very deep right now, and Mike Boone steps in front and makes the interception. You can see how many people are downfield. If Mike Boone didn't make that interception, it looked like Peter Payne was going to. Mike Boone, an all-Canadian linebacker back in 1990. In his last and final game for the Queens Golden Gaels.
And what a way to go out.
And, you know, we talk about Alex Iliopoulos. These two played at the same high school, Lorne Park Collegiate in Mississauga.
28-0 is the score. Brad Elberg has 3 of the touchdowns. If he gets another, he'll set the Vanier Cup record. Here he comes. Bounces it outside once again. Again, Elberg turns something into nothing, gets a gain of about 5.
And what's so impressive about Brad Elberg is that, you know, you think you've got the outside leverage on him when you're coming up to contain him, but he manages to get outside. He has such great speed and acceleration. Now, this is supposed to go off tackle. Now, watch how he bounces it out here, and the defender coming up thinks he's got him, but now he just puts on the jets and gets around the corner. You can see that Andre Williams has a hard time pulling him down.
Gain of 5 and a 2nd and 5. Now at the St. Mary's 52 with 10:14 to play. They'll keep it on the ground to Elberg, and not much doing that time as all over him was Tom Fleet.
Tom Fleet, if you're wondering why a defensive tackle wears number 32, he was listed as a running back. And so they wanted him to be able to play in the backfield as well, but he's now a defensive tackle out of Queen Elizabeth High School. A lot of local talent on the St. Mary's Huskies football team from the Halifax area.
A 3rd trip to the Vanier Cup in 5 years. 5 of the players on the St. Mary's team have made all 3 trips. 17 were here 2 years ago. And every one of them has gone home disappointed, and it doesn't look like that will change this year. Galloway with a low driving punt. Gallinger from the 18-yard line has some room and has some jets, but a flag goes down. Jumping in to make the tackle for Queens was Todd Vokes. We'll see what the flag is all about.
That was a legal block by David Houston on Tom Black. David Houston for St. Mary's hitting the center.
And we'll get the call from Murray Taylor. It is indeed against David Houston. Let's go down to Rod Smith.
Used to seeing this guy at the Sky Dome, but different circumstances. Joining me now, Toronto Blue Jays outfielder Derek Bell. Derek, I didn't realize you were such a big football fan.
Well, in the United States, where I'm from, Florida, we got Florida State and Miami and the Florida Gators, and they're pretty, powerhouse in football. So, I like college football because it's very exciting, and we always have winners down there in Florida. So, I say when I was in my room and I heard the noise and I came down and seen the football game going on, I said, hey, let me come and check out some of the guys.
Well, I want to ask your opinion now. This is Canadian football, not American football. What's your opinion of the CIAU?
Well, it's pretty exciting. They get into it just like they do in the United States, so I'm enjoying myself just like they're enjoying themselves out there.
You're in danger a bit being down here at the Queen sideline. They recognize you. They'll probably try to get you over and do one of their school cheers. Any risk of that yet?
They asked me about it, so I might join them and I might not. I don't know yet.
Enjoy yourself, Derek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Derek Bell of the Blue Jays. Back to you, Gordon.
All right, thank you, Rod. And warming up is Cosby Jackson on the sidelines. That game by Mike Messam was 16 yards. Derek Bell didn't make the Blue Jays victory parade. Now we know where he was. He was sleeping in his room at the Sky Dome Hotel all the time. Here's Oxley pulling his way up to about the 32-yard line. And he will be short of the first down.
Chris McCormick, another one of those defensive backs from the Kingston area. Again, he and Joel Dagnoni were teammates together at Regiopolis, Notre Dame. 5 interceptions on the season.
A gain of 3. Now 2nd and 7. Sykes for Sardi, almost intercepted for a touchdown by Mark Morrison. He got one hand on it, and if he'd been able to squeeze it, there was nothing in front of him.
Well, this is great recognition by Mark Morrison. You know, just a one-step drop out from the quarterback, and Morrison just attacks hard. Breaks it up, but almost picks it off.
And once again, we will see St. Mary's going for it on 3rd down. 8:20 to play and counting in the 4th quarter. 8:20 between Mark Morrison and a Vanier Cup championship. Sykes will go back to the shotgun. Over the middle and incomplete. He was looking once again for David Time, and Time got nailed. Mike Boone and Joel Dagnoni were in there to make the stop, and Dagnoni leveled the St. Mary's receiver, who was down on the turf.
And you know, Gore, when you're playing in this kind of a football game, you've got a 28-point lead, and you know they have to throw the football, and you're a safety. You just pray, and he throws it over the middle. And you can see the ball thrown a bit behind David Time, twists around, and then Joel Dagnoni comes in and just lowers the boom on him right there. Bang.
And Time remains down on the field. Time running out for St. Mary's to avoid the first shutout in Vanier Cup history. In fact, this 28-point lead by Queens, close to the biggest margin of victory recorded by McGill, 36 points over UBC in '87. Let's go to Leaf.
You know, Gord, one of the things you have to look at here, they're trying to hit the hook, but these just become predetermined throws for David Sykes. He's not reading coverage. Here you've got 33 Mike Boone coming out. You got middle linebacker coming out. I mean, there is no way you're going to get it into that area. Let it run now and you'll see. But, you know, it's just a matter right now of David Sykes saying, hey, I'm throwing in that area regardless, and he's just not reading the coverage. Back to you guys.
And Dave Time is up and jogging off the field. He was open for a second, and then Joel Dagnoni closed the door on him. And it is another turnover. A first down for Queens at the St. Mary's 33-yard line. With 7:45 to go in the 4th. Here goes Elberg. Bouncing outside, puts his head down, still going. He's down to about the 31. Let's check in with Paul Romanek.
Yeah, thanks, Gore. I'm not sure if there was much doubt, but if there was any, I just walked down the bench a few moments ago and asked Sean Monge if he'd be back, and he said no way, the right knee is hurting too much, so he is finished for the season and certainly for this game.
Well, there's a tradition of bad breaks for great players from St. Mary's. I mean, you remember Chris Flynn, unable to play in the Vanier Cup. Key injuries to big players have hurt teams from the AUAA in the championship game. Game was won at 2nd and 9. Here's Pendergast to throw, and it is just out of the reach of his intended receiver. He was looking over there for Kyle Wanzel. As Derek Bell now signs some autographs for the Purple People Eaters. And of course, if Derek stays in the hotel another week, you'll see the Grey Cup here next week.
Tim Pendergast in his last football game with the Queens Golden Gaels, finishing off a 5-year career. He's taking his Bachelor of Education this year at Queens, out of Schollard Hall in North Bay.
And an unnecessary roughness penalty against St. Mary's gives Queens a first down at the 17-yard line. 6:45 to go, and they're getting into the territory now where Brad Elberg could get the record-setting 4th touchdown of the game. Elberg in motion. They give it off to Kozan inside, and Paul Kozan has maybe 3 before he is stacked up. Larry Utek's team, 3 trips in 5 years. Here's the Huskies will once again come away empty. 10-0 they came into this game, and Doug Hargrave's team comes into this game with an 8-game winning streak. 17th year as the head coach of Queens. Look at that, 24 first downs along the ground and a 7-yard average. On 2nd down to throw, they're looking for Elberg, almost intercepted by Brian Johnson. Elberg wasn't looking, and Pendergast missed him. That would have been number 4 for Mr. Elberg, who right now has tied the Vanier Cup record for most touchdowns in a game.
And Tim Pendergast drills this. He's trying to get it in there in front of. I don't think he sees Brian Johnson, the linebacker, who's dropped off deep. He puts him in a bad spot right in the numbers. Watch this. Bang.
And Brian Johnson, who was stopped on offense as a running back on 3rd and goal. Couldn't squeeze it there. Galloway with the field goal attempt from 22 yards out. Up and good. Make it a 31-point lead. 31-0 with 5:35 to play now in the 4th quarter. Tim Pendergast and the gang are getting close to a celebration.
He's played well, you know.
He really has played well. Yeah.
You know, he's
well,
throwing.
Bruce, what were you saying? That was 24 first downs along the ground, right?
No. 24 yards rushing, wasn't it?
No. It was 3 first downs passing, 24 rushing. Is that what that was? No. That was 24 first downs rushing, wasn't it?
The Queens Golden Gaels obviously dominating this game. Coach, your impressions of just how well they were prepared today?
Well, the Queens staff did an excellent coaching job. That showed in the team's performance. The kids themselves were virtually error-free. There were very few penalties, which, as I think we saw, can have a drastic effect and really get things turned around. I was very impressed with them. I thought they played with a lot of enthusiasm, and they didn't hurt themselves. They did a great job.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you. I can't remember seeing a team come out more focused from the opening kickoff and carry it right through into the 4th quarter. Gord?
And Queens only lost once this year. It was to Ian Breck's Bishop Gators.
That's right. Maybe Leaf should ask him what he did. Queens lost only one game. That was 49-14. They were blown out by the Bishop's Gators. Seems like Ian Breck knew what to do earlier in the season against that strong Queens football team.
1st and 10, St. Mary's from the 35-yard line. Here comes Oxley, and Anthony Oxley has room to run all the way up to the 51-yard line. A gain of 16. And a first down with 5:23 to play.
Well, of course, right now, Queens are going to be in their pass posture defense. They're not really concerned about the run at all. You can see they run what we call a go scheme, where they pull the left guard, Alex Westwater. They block inside with the tight end and the tackle. And he goes off tackle. They run the same thing again this play.
And Oxley this time has a gain of about 7. And let's go back to Leaf. He apparently has an answer from Ian Breck.
Well, thank you, Gord. Yeah, hey, listen, Coach, Jamie Bone mentioned it. You're the only blemish on the Queens record this year, a 49-14 win. What did you do right that day?
Well, we played very well in all phases of the game. We had a block punt. We had an interception return for a touchdown. It really turned things around. Jim Murphy, our quarterback, was exceptional. He completed about 75% of his passes. We really played very, very well. Queens got better as the year went on, and when we played again, they were a better football team that particular day. But I'm happy for them. They're a great organization, and I think they're well deserved in having this victory.
All right, fellas.
Ironically, both these teams will end the season 10-1. One will have a Vanier Cup championship. 3rd down. Here comes Sykes again. Screen pass to Oxley, and he dropped the ball. He just flat out dropped the football.
I mean, that's the story of this game right there. You see Anthony Oxley just not being able to hold on to the football. They've been that far away all game long, and again, it's that case where he's just not looking for the ball before he turns up the field. Watch his head. He doesn't secure it. You've got to catch the ball, tuck it in, and then turn around and head up the field.
Chalk it up as another turnover on downs. Queens takes over 1st and 10 from its own 51-yard line. Let's go deep! And Brad Elberg is not out there for the Golden Gaels, so apparently we will not see him go for the Vanier Cup touchdown record. And here they go rumbling anyway. Don Rorwick, the backup tailback, and that's a real tribute to the Queens offensive line, because no matter who's carrying the ball, they're getting big yards. David Sykes, the kind of day you'd like to forget. The second half, 4 of 16 for 45 yards and a pair of interceptions.
And I think if you put that in perspective, you know, he didn't get a lot of help from a lot of people. I mean, he had a few dropped. Offensive line were allowing pretty good pressure on him all game as well. And they also have a new quarterback in, Steve Othen from Llewellyn Secondary School in Sudbury is in the football game.
What a throw for this young man who's about to throw his first pass, and it is incomplete.
And he will be the quarterback next year.
So Tim Pendergast, perhaps, has taken his last snap as a quarterback in the CIAU. Steve Othen, the kind of game you love to come into.
Yeah, it is. It's great to come into this kind of a game, as we see Brad Elberg doing one of many interviews I'm sure he'll be doing after this football game.
3.5 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. Queens fans are massing for a celebration at the end of the game. Here comes Rorwick again for another first down up to about the 34-yard line. A gain of 11. 2 carries for 25 yards.
Not bad. We saw him come in last week as well in the football game when Brad Elberg came out for a couple of plays, and he also played very well then.
I wonder if they get close to the goal line, if they'll bring Elberg back in.
I don't know. That doesn't seem really to be Bob Howe's or Doug Hargrave's style, but you never know, because one touchdown away from having the record. And I'm sure Brad Elberg will not be back next year for the Queens Golden Gaels. He will be playing professional football somewhere.
And this time Rorwick is bottled up as a solid defensive play is made by Chris Marion, a loss of 3. Greg Ferran also in to make the stop.
Well, Queens offensive line, they felt they matched up pretty good against that St. Mary's defensive line. Queens are very large. Defoe, the right guard, and Ken Kirkwood, the right tackle, both come in at 280 yards.
Brad Elberg's got some celebrating to do. His team leads 31-0.
Do they not see me looking at them?
Yeah, we're up.
You hear what I said? Both come in at 280 yards.
Oh.
280 pounds.
Get him back in there, Doug. Get him back in there. Get him the record. Is it Othen or off?
Othen. That's what it is.
Doug Hargraves talking it over with his backup quarterback, Steve Othen, who's come in on relief of Tim Pendergast. Tim Pendergast's brother, Jamie Pendergast, played for Queens for 5 years. Did not get a chance to win a Vanier Cup. He played in the Vanier Cup game that they lost back in 1983. And I know that Jamie's looking on today and really very proud of his little brother, who is on the sidelines now as Steve Othen comes in to clean it up for Queens with 2:53 to play in the fourth quarter.
You see Tim Pendergast talking to a former receiver of his,
Great, I love you.
Jock Climbing.
I love his parents too.
You know, it's funny, we talked to Tim Pendergast during the week and of course last week, and he said, you know, statistically this was my worst year at Queens, but I'm sure this is the year that he'll remember the most.
They give to Paul Beresford, and Beresford is going nowhere as he's stacked up on the play by Noah Cantor.
This is a veteran Queens football team. They will lose a lot of players next year. Paul Beresford is one of them in his 5th year. Brad Elberg, of course, will probably be gone. Dan Wright. Tim Pendergast.
This Queens defense has really done the job today. St. Mary's, you'd have to think for pride at least, would love to get on the scoreboard here to avoid being the first team in Vanier Cup history to be shut out. Gallinger takes it at the 12, and he is dropped at the 10. Nothing doing, and now there's some pushing and shoving. Tanner got into it with Rob Weir. Jamie, I'll ask you point blank. Do the AUAA schools suffer by what some perceive to be a lack of strong competition during the regular season?
I'm not so sure it's a lack of strong competition throughout the season, because Mount Allison are a pretty good football team. You know, Acadia, they say with the quarterback that they had this year is pretty good. I think what happens is you talk to a lot of the players, since they had to play each other so many times, and St. Mary's players are telling us this week, it gets boring. I mean, they just keep playing the same teams week in and week out. And, you know, I think that's what happens. It takes away their intensity. They're not meeting a new opponent each and every week.
It's been 11 years since a team from the AUAA won the Vanier Cup. Anthony Oxley fights his way for about 7 as he gets up to the 15-yard line. And it's a long trip to Halifax from here. Even longer when you're getting whooped like this. Burke, the All-Canadian. A game he'd just as soon forget. And a game these guys will remember for the rest of their lives.
And that's Dan Wright, who many thought would not even play in this football game because of an injury. He's a tight end.
Low snap to Sykes. Under pressure now, dumps it off for Oxley. Check that, that's Dave Time, and Time is dropped in his tracks. Loss of 5 on the play. Have to make the stop, Mark Morrison.
And I think Alberg just walked over and told him, load it up with ice and lots of water. You always notice how it's the guys who aren't coming back next year that do that.
I was going to say, no way you're doing that if you're a freshman on this team. It's 4 years of Doug Hargraves after something like that. Might be a little hard to take. Doug would not likely let that one go easily. Under a minute and a half to go now, and the Queens side of the field is set to erupt. And we've got a timeout by St. Mary's.
You know, coming into this game, St. Mary's felt that they would have a pretty good advantage because they had 23 players on this football team that played in the Vanier Cup in 1990. They had 5 players that played in the Vanier Cup in 1988. They thought their experience would carry them over the top.
Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield. If you didn't get a chance to see this, folks, it's one of the great heavyweight fights in the last 15 years. We'll have it for you at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and you won't want to miss the start of it because they start with a bang and they keep going. Great fight that was. Sagan to punt. Low snap, and it is dropped. Still loose. A flag is down, and we'll see what has happened here and who gets the ball back. A 25-yard punt. I believe it is Queens football. No yards to call against St. Mary's. So they'll move it a little closer and give Queens even better field position. And here it is, folks. Alberg and Pendergast, and Doug Hargraves gets soaked.
Usually the official ending of a football game is not over until you get soaked with the Gatorade.
Great thing is Doug's hair is soaking wet, doesn't look any different. Of course, he had himself scotch guarded before the game. He didn't tell the guys that. 1st and 10 from the 23. Rorwick with the carry. He had some room to run, fights his way down to the 20 with 1:07 to play. A gain of 4.
Run it 3 times.
Steve Sardi looking up, wondering what went wrong today and why their offense could not score any points against the Queens Golden Gaels. Queens only had 1 shutout this year, and that was versus the University of Ottawa, a game in which they won 35-0.
Minute flag is up. Remember that 3 weeks ago, it looked like Queens' season had ended. Here's Rorwick off tackle down to the 10. McGill had scored what appeared to be the game-winning touchdown in their playoff game, but it was brought back by a penalty. Since then, Queens has not looked back.
Nobody deserves it. I wear size 8 in my ring.
And it's been another long afternoon on the Skydome sideline for Larry Utek. 30 seconds to play now. 1st and 10 from the 11. Rorwick down to about the 7.
You know, we saw Larry Utek there just a few minutes ago as we take a look at the Queens Golden Gaels celebrating on the sidelines.
I wonder if we'll see Elberg here.
St. Mary's. And look at those uniforms. You know, I think Larry Utek is probably going to burn those maroon colors because the last 3 times they've been to the Vanier Cup, they have worn dark sweaters, and they have not managed to win the game.
The celebration is on the Queen's sidelines. The clock is running with 10 seconds to play. Pendergast brings them out. The first shutout in Vanier Cup history. The clock shows 0. And the Gaels are indeed golden. The Vanier Cup champions for 1992. Doug Hargraves and the Queen's Golden Gaels. And this man with one of the most impressive offensive performances in the history of this championship game. 3 touchdowns and a 31-0 victory for the Queen's Golden Gaels. Celebrate the championship on the field, in the stands, and of course in Kingston, Ontario. The first Vanier Cup for the Queen's Golden Gaels since they won it back in 1978. This football program over 100 years old. And St. Mary's, in its 3rd trip in 5 years, comes away empty once more. 10-1. Their record on the season. And Alex Iliopoulos, the outstanding defensive player in the nation this year, gives his teammates a pep talk. How difficult it must be when the one loss you suffer all year is the one that costs you your dream. They're dancing and they're singing.
And you know, this
not far away from them is the Vanier Cup.
And this is a tradition, Gord, at Queen's University at homecoming. All the fans storm the field, and they're certainly doing it here in Skydome. It's becoming a sea of people on this field. The Vanier Cup.
Created in 1965. The late George Vanier granted permission to the Canadian Save the Children Fund to name the trophy awarded to the winner of the annual Canadian College Bowl and name it the Vanier Cup.
And you know there'll be a few people drinking a little bit of grape juice out of that cup tonight.
It's seen a lot, and now it's going to see Kingston once more. We'll return with our post-game celebrations. You're watching the 1992 Vanier Cup live from Skydome on TSN. Is there a fight down there? Oh, the holding? Oh, okay.
Who held? Who was it?
Ted McLean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's single. Put the execution cam on him, right?
Yeah, the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Look at this. And Romy's out in that. How are you, Romy? You all right? I see you, buddy. Love your show.
Is it... Yes. Do you have the hold or do you have the play?
Look at that, eh?
You know who's hold?
All right. Time now for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by Sony.
Gordon, the first quarter with Queens up 7-0. It looks like St. Mary's are going to get back into the football game. David Sykes managed to hit Charles Ash with a long touchdown pass, but it was called back because of holding by Ted McLean on Eric Dell.
And that was our turning point. A cash donation will be made to the Coaching Association of Canada for the training and development of Canadian coaches in amateur sport on behalf of TSN and Sony. Sony Trinitron XBR Squared. It will change the way you feel about everything you see. The song is called Oil Fine the Banrigan. They're singing it on the field now. at every end of the field, and there is one bit of business remaining. Danny Pelche is the stadium announcer, and he's got the presentation of the Vanier Cup.
Ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the presentation flow at center field. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez diriger votre attention vers la ligne de 55 verges où auront lieu les présentations. Dr. Robert Corrin, President of the Canadian Inter-University Athletic Union, and Mr. Mark Lowry, Executive Vice President of the CIAU, will present the Vanier Cup to the co-captains of the 1992 national champions, the Queen's University Golden Gaels. Monsieur Robert Corrin, Président de l'Union sportive interuniversitaire canadienne, et Monsieur Mark Lowry, Vice-président exécutif de l'USIC, présenteront la Coupe Vanier aux co-capitaines de l'équipe championne de 1992, les Golden Gaels de l'Université Queen's.
Brad, you said that you live to play football, so this has got to be the biggest moment of your life, I guess.
Exactly. It's the most important game of my life. I knew that when I was coming out today. I mean, I love the sport, and at the worst of times, this just makes it seem so much better.
The pressure guys come through in the biggest games. Did you feel coming out that you were going to have the best game of your life?
I was going to try. It's just a matter of staying focused, and I think we had a quality enough team with the 40 members, not any individuals. And I thought if we came out focused, things would work out to our advantage, and I think we did, and that's exactly what happened.
And how much did you want to do this for Doug Hargraves?
Hey, Doug deserves it. Doug works so hard. He deserves every bit of this. He's a fantastic coach. Never been around a man that understands game better than Doug. He's great. He's our leader, and I'm happy for him. It's great.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Let's get this one way up. Let's go up here.
He got a lot of help from his blockers. He'll need it now to get that trophy to the dressing room. There's about 20,000 people blocking the way. 31-0, the final score for Queens over St. Mary's. Back with more in a moment.
All right, so voice over and throw it to Romy. The party continues at Skydome, a sea of gold and blue, celebrating the Vanier Cup victory for the Queens Golden Gaels over the St. Mary's Huskies. And is that Paul Romanuk being hoisted by some jubilant fans down there? Yes, it is. I don't imagine we can hear anything from Paul Romanuk right now. But as the party continues, the Queens Golden Gaels have to be rated #1 in the nation. The Huskies were number 1 until today, but St. Mary's never really recovered from an early Queens drive that ended with a 55-yard touchdown drive and a 1-yard touchdown after that. Later, St. Mary's had a touchdown called back because of a holding penalty. And from those two events of the afternoon, the St. Mary's Huskies never quite recovered this afternoon. Now, all the way down at the other end of the stadium, my partner on the CFL, Lee Pedersen, is standing by with Ian Bragg.
All right, John, thank you very much. And let's say for up here than down in the field, as you can see, Paul Romanek's having a tough time down there. But, you know, Coach, it was nice to listen to Brad Elberg, and he said, we wanted to win this one for Doug Hargreaves. Your thoughts on your pal Doug Hargreaves? You guys are adversaries during the season, but you're a fraternity when it comes right down to it.
That's right. And one of the things that I think everybody respects most about Doug is that he puts the game of football first. He works very hard with his young men to have them understand that it's a great game that we all play and that the game is treated with the respect it deserves. He's very concerned about the kids in his program. And if wins come his way and championships, that's the icing on the cake. But I think his agenda is a much more educational one. And for those reasons, we all have tremendous respect for Doug. He's a great fellow to coach. And I don't want to say against, he's a great fellow to coach with.
Isn't that nice? As you can see in the background, the Queens Golden Gaels on the field celebrating this win. Coach, we're going to thank you. You were Coach of the Year this year. Let's hope you can parlay that into a 1993 appearance in the Vanier Cup.
Well, thank you, Leaf, very much. There's no question that that's our goal. And after having seen the game from this level, I'd like to go down on the field with a football team and bring the Vanier Cup home to Bishop's University.
All right, Lee. Coach, thanks again for being with us. As you can see from sightlines where we have been all afternoon, is Queens Golden Gaels party up here. Gordon Jamie.
Thank you very much, Lee. Doug Hargreaves made a lot of right moves this season. The best one was to get off the field just with the game in it and get into the dressing room. There's another game to be played here next week, and those Queens fans might still be out there when they kick off the Grey Cup game here next week.
And I bet you Paul Romanek has more bruises in his body right now than Brad Elberg does.
Yeah, poor Paul. We'll set a search party up for him later. 31-0 for Queens, one of the most impressive Vanier Cup performances we've ever seen.
It really was. You know, you take a look, it wasn't just Brad Elberg. I mean, we said at the beginning of the show, Tim Pendergast is going to have a pretty good game. Well, he completed 7 of 16 passes for 216 yards. What's incredible about that, that's 31 yards per reception. And then, of course, Brad Elberg, 137 yards rushing, and the intensity and the leadership that they got from him was really incredible.
For St. Mary's, where do you go from here?
I think you got to go back and rebuild. I think it's why Alec Iliopoulos, that was very impressive of what he did at the end of the football game. Call his teammates together, show the kind of leadership that helped get them into this game. He's going to be back in that program next year. They lose a few people, but nevertheless, they still got a pretty good nucleus. Don't be surprised if you see St. Mary's, they might be back here again next year.
For Queens, the future of some people is in doubt, but what about Brad Elberg? Does he go into the CFL from here?
No, I think so. I mean, they were talking to him about this week because of his 40 time. Maybe he's going somewhere else, maybe the NFL. But I'm sure that Brad Elberg, he's such an intense guy, wants to play in the CFL. He said he'd like to stay at home, preferably in Regina. Maybe we'll see him there next year.
All right, let's go downstairs. Our big guy, Rod Smith, is managed to fight his way through the crowd. Rod?
Thank you very much, Gord. The trophies and awards are here for the Vanier Cup, and the award winners are here as well. And I'm pleased to say the winner of the Ted Morris Memorial Trophy as the GO Player of the Game is selected by a committee of media representatives as the outstanding player in the 1992 Vanier Cup is Brad Elberg, number 1 for the Golden Gaels. Congratulations. And making the presentation is Mr. Norman Jameson, former Queens grad and football player, I might add, chairman of the Vanier Cup Management Committee. And the trophy is accompanied by a $1,000 General Motors of Canada bursary award in the winning player's name to his university. Congratulations, Brad. Mr. Jameson.
Thank you very much. Brad, you brought honor to your team and your school today. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson.
And there still is more to come here. Le meilleur joueur de la Coupe Vanier 1992, Brad Elberg. Now, the defensive player of the game. The outstanding offensive and defensive players in the 1992 Vanier Cup will receive an award donated by Starter Canada. Presenting the award are Mr. Norm Jameson, and from Starter Canada, Mr. Kevin Reynolds. The outstanding offensive player of the game, Brad Elberg. And the outstanding defensive player, come on in here, Eric Dell.
The mining engineer, congratulations. Eric. It was a great game.
That was great. Congratulations on that. Thank you very much.
And I should also point out, in presenting the Ted Morris Trophy, my mistake, the trophy is accompanied, I mentioned, by the $1,000 bursary. Now presenting this bursary from General Motors of Canada, Mr. Bob Simpson.
Congratulations on a great season and a great game. Thank you very much, Mr. Simpson. Take care.
Well, the Canadian Inter-University Athletic Union and the Vanier Cup Committee, thank you for attending today's game and greatly appreciate your support for Canadian University football and for Vanier Cup 1992. I want to talk to these guys for a second. I know you already spoke to Paul Romanuk, but all the speculation about your future, is this it for college football for you? Are you thinking of the pros now?
Well, I'd like to give it a shot, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes. I'm going to wait and see how that works out, and then I can reevaluate my situation after I take a crack at it.
There was a lot of talk about it would be the offense of Queens against that strong St. Mary's defense. Say a little word about your defense with the big goose egg up on the board there.
Well, exactly. I think they got all the press for being the best defense in the country, and all along anybody that was a Golden Gale felt that we had the best defense in the country, and I think they proved it today.
Eric, come on in here. One of the unsung heroes is the defensive player of the game, and a defense that really deserved a lot of kudos. Did you feel a little bit disrespected? All we talked about all week was the St. Mary's D.
Well, that doesn't really bother me. We knew we could play well. We knew we could do really well against them, and we proved that today.
I also just want to ask you, really, is this your last year at Queen's University, or you think you're going to be back next year?
It probably is.
Yeah, it must be great, and you must feel good for all the other guys who are in their fifth year and their final year.
Yeah, it's great for everyone in our last year. It's a dream come true. You can't ask for any more.
Really, in the second half, it seemed like there was a resolve on the part of defense to not only not let them get back in the game, but not let them get any points at all. That goal line stand kind of proved that.
Yeah, at halftime we were talking about the Lurie game from last year again, and we decided that we didn't want to let that happen again. We came out just firing on all cylinders, and at the end we just said we want to shut them out now. It worked out.
Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Eric Dell and Brad Elberg, the offensive and defensive players of the game. And now let's throw it back upstairs.
All right, Rod, thank you very much. Quite a display by the Queen's University Golden Gales this afternoon. Not only do they win the football game very convincingly over the St. Mary's Huskies by a score of 31-0, the first shutout in CIAU Vanier Cup history, but they win the top two awards here this afternoon. Again, an outstanding display, and for Doug Hargraves, the second Vanier Cup in his illustrious coaching career with the University of Queens Golden Gales. Again, the final score at Skydome in Vanier Cup 92, Queens Golden Gales 31, and the St. Mary's Huskies nothing. The Queen's University Golden Gales have been underdogs since the playoffs began. Today they are the Vanier Cup champions. It has been a battle hard fought and finally won. For Coach Doug Hargraves, the first Vanier Cup came easily by comparison. He won just 2 years after taking over at Queens. Hargraves has spent the next 15 years trying to win his second Vanier Cup. Congratulations to all the players and the Golden Gales everywhere in Canada. We've had a chance for a very special celebration today. I'm John Wells. Thanks for joining us for Vanier Cup 92.
All right, thanks very much, Teresa. The Queens Golden Gaels 31-0 winners over the St. Mary's Huskies. Certainly beyond any Queens fans' wildest dreams, and I'm sure another nightmare for St. Mary's.
Well, we thought coming into this game there would be great defense, but we thought it would be on both sides of the football, not just with the Queens Golden Gaels. And you have to give full credit to Queens offense. Brad Elberg, of course, had a great day, but Tim Pendergast threw the ball extremely well when he had to, and his receivers came up with some big receptions.
It's worth noting that Elberg tied the Vanier Cup record for touchdowns basically in just over a half. He scored his 3 touchdowns in the first 35 or 40 minutes of the football game. That's a very impressive performance by him, but in fact by this entire Queens team, which lost only once all year and has now won 9 in a row.
And all the more impressive because of who they were facing coming in here. The #1 ranked team in the nation, the St. Mary's Huskies. They were 10-0 in the season. They were the #1 ranked defense in the nation. So, I mean, it makes Elberg's accomplishments all that more impressive.
Now, the big play in the game to us anyway was a play that didn't figure in the scoring. It was a pass by David Sykes to Charles Ash, a 64-yard touchdown that we showed in the highlights, and it was brought back by holding. It's a huge call for the mental aspect of the St. Mary's game.
Well, you know, you've got a tie game, and then the next thing you know that the Queens end up scoring in the next series. That's a 14-point swing, and that's tough to come back up.
All right, Jamie, thanks very much. Let's go back to Sports Desk and Teresa Herger.